At 2:47 a.m., 30 armed men are about to execute a crime lord in a roadside diner. But they don't know the tired waitress refilling coffee is the one person who can kill them all. This is a story about violence, survival, and the price of running from who you used to be. If you want to see how far this story reaches, hit that like button and drop a comment with your city. Now settle in, because what happens next in that diner will change everything. The fluorescent lights in Martha's diner hummed like dying insects, casting everything in that particular shade of yellow that made 2 in the morning feel even lonelier than it already was. Lena Voss stood behind the counter, a coffee pot in one hand, watching the highway through windows streaked with rain. Not much moved out there. Just the occasional semi hauling goods to somewhere that probably didn't matter. She'd been working the graveyard shift for 3 years now. Same diner. Same stretch of nowhere highway cutting through the Missouri flatlands. Same routine that kept her invisible, which was exactly how she needed it. The coffee pot was half empty. She should brew another. In about 20 minutes, the truckers would start filtering in, wanting their eggs and bacon, wanting to complain about dispatchers and DOT regulations. Lena would smile, write down their orders, bring them food. They'd leave tips. She'd pocket them without counting, day after day, night after night. Simple. Quiet. Safe. The bell above the door chimed. Lena glanced up. A man walked in, expensive suit under a dark overcoat, hair silver at the temples. He moved like someone used to being followed, his eyes sweeping the diner before he chose a booth in the back corner, positioning himself where he could see both doors. Professional. Lena felt something cold slide down her spine. She recognized that walk, that awareness. She'd spent years trying to forget what it meant. "Coffee?" she called out, keeping her voice flat. "Please." His voice was smooth, educated. Black. She walked over with a mug and the pot. Up close, she could see the lines around his eyes, the silver cufflinks, the watch that cost more than most people made in 6 months. His hands were steady when he accepted the mug. No rings, a thin scar across 2 knuckles. "Menu's on the table," Lena said. "I'm fine with just coffee." "Thank you." She nodded and walked back to the counter. Something was wrong. You didn't wear a $5,000 suit to a roadside diner at 2:47 in the morning unless you were running from something or waiting for something. Lena's instincts were screaming, but she pushed them down. Not her problem, not her business. She was a waitress. She poured coffee and served eggs. That was all. The man, she'd mentally labeled him Suit, sat very still, occasionally sipping his coffee, watching the door, waiting. 10 minutes passed. The bell chimed again. 2 men this time. Leather jackets, both carrying the kind of bulk that said they spent time in a gym but never played sports. They didn't look at Lena. They walked straight to Suit's booth and sat down across from him. "Victor," one of them said. Not a question, a confirmation. "Gentlemen?" Suit. Victor didn't move. "You're late." "Traffic." "At 3 in the morning?" "Marcus wants to know if you're ready to talk terms." Victor took another sip of coffee. "I'm here, aren't I?" The conversation dropped to murmurs. Lena couldn't hear the specifics, but she didn't need to. This was business. The kind that happened in back rooms and parking lots, the kind that left bodies in rivers. She wiped down the counter and tried to look busy. Tried to be invisible. Then headlights cut across the windows. Not one car, several. Lena's hand stilled on the counter. She counted the shapes moving outside. Dark SUVs, parking in a loose perimeter around the diner. No lights except the headlights, which they left on, throwing harsh shadows across the parking lot. Victor saw them too. His face didn't change, but his shoulders tensed. One of the leather jacket guys started to stand. "Don't," Victor said quietly. "We need to sit down." The bell chimed, then again and again. Men filed in one after another, spreading out through the diner. They didn't sit. They stood, blocking exits, covering angles. Most of them wore tactical gear under jackets. Several had their hands inside those jackets. Lena counted them as they entered. 15, 20, 25, 30. 30 armed men in a roadside diner surrounding one booth. Her heart rate didn't spike, her breathing didn't change. She'd been trained too well for that. But inside, in the parts of herself she'd buried, something woke up. Something cold and calculating that immediately started mapping exits, counting weapons, measuring distances. No. She crushed that instinct down. She wasn't that person anymore. A man stepped through the door last. Younger than Victor, maybe mid-40s, wearing a tailored shirt and slacks. His smile was the kind that didn't reach his eyes. "Victor Hale," he said, loud enough to fill the diner. "You're a hard man to pin down." Victor didn't stand. He lifted his coffee mug in a small salute. "Marcus Kane. Should have known you wouldn't come alone. Can't be too careful these days when..." Marcus gestured at the men surrounding them. "Security, you understand? 30 men for security?" Victor set down his mug. "That's not security, Marcus. That's an execution." The two leather jacket guys tried to move again. 3 of Marcus's men immediately drew weapons. Pistols, mostly. 1 shotgun. The message was clear. "Easy," Marcus said, still smiling. "Nobody needs to get hurt. This is just a conversation." Conversations don't usually require this much firepower. "You brought 2 bodyguards. I brought associates." "Semantics." Marcus walked closer, hands in his pockets, casual. "Here's the situation, Victor. You've been running the Southern Territories for 15 years. You've made a lot of money. But things change. Markets shift, and frankly, your methods are outdated." "My methods keep the peace. Your methods cost money. My people can do the same job for half the overhead. Your people are butchers." Marcus's smile finally faded. "Careful, Victor. You're not in a position to insult anyone right now." Lena stood very still behind the counter, coffee pot forgotten in her hand. She could feel the tension ratcheting up, the air getting thicker. These men were going to kill Victor Hale, right here in this diner, in approximately 60 seconds. Not her problem. She was a waitress. She didn't even know Victor Hale, but she knew what came next. She'd seen it before, in a different life. The setup, the encirclement, the moment when talking stopped and triggers got pulled. "Last chance," Marcus said. "Agree to step down, retire, live out your days somewhere quiet. Otherwise you kill me and take over my territories by force. Yes, I understand the proposal." Victor leaned back in the booth. "Here's my counteroffer. Go to hell." Marcus sighed. "Disappointing. I really hoped you'd be reasonable." He nodded. The lights went out. Every single light in the diner, all at once. The fluorescents, the neon signs, even the exit signs. Total darkness except for the headlights from the SUVs outside, which created harsh columns of light through the windows but left most of the interior in shadow. Someone cut the power, Lena thought. Planned. Professional. In the darkness, men started shouting, "Nobody move!" "Where is he?" "Get those lights!" The first gunshot cracked like thunder in the confined space. Then chaos erupted. Lena moved. She didn't think about it, didn't decide. Her body simply reacted, muscle memory taking over. She dropped the coffee pot, hearing it shatter on the floor, and went low. Rolled behind the counter. Her hand found the shelf beneath the register where she kept a flashlight. She didn't turn it on. Instead, she used the sound of the gunfire to map positions. 3 shots from the back corner. Victor's booth. One of his bodyguards returning fire. Answering fire from at least 6 different positions. Muzzle flashes strobing the darkness. More shouting. "He's moving! Block the kitchen!" "Where's the waitress?" Lena was already moving through the kitchen, using the headlights from outside to navigate. She knew this diner, knew every corner, every cabinet, every exit. She hit the back door, expecting it to be locked or blocked. It wasn't. Someone had left it open. Recently. She could smell cigarette smoke. One of Marcus's men had been standing guard here, past tense, because he wasn't standing anymore. He was on the ground, throat crushed, weapon gone. Victor's work? No. Too fast. The lights had only been out for maybe 10 seconds. Lena stepped over the body and kept moving. The shooting inside the diner intensified. She could hear breaking glass, screaming, the heavy thud of bodies hitting the floor. Someone was killing Marcus's men. Efficiently. Systematically. It wasn't her problem. She should run, get to her car, drive away, disappear again, start over somewhere else. Her feet stopped moving. She stood in the parking lot, headlights cutting around her, and she realized she was still holding the flashlight. Her hands were steady, her breathing was controlled. And deep inside, in the parts of herself she'd tried to kill, something was purring with satisfaction. She'd been hiding for 5 years. 5 years of being nobody, pouring coffee, smiling at truckers, pretending she was normal, safe, ordinary. But ordinary people didn't survive rooms full of armed killers. Ordinary people didn't count muzzle flashes and calculate casualties. Ordinary people didn't feel calm when violence erupted around them. A man stumbled out the front door of the diner, clutching his shoulder, one of Marcus's crew. He saw Elena and raised his weapon. She moved before he could fire, closed the distance in 3 steps, struck his wrist with the flashlight, hard enough to break bone. The gun clattered to the asphalt. Her follow-up was automatic. Elbow to the throat, knee to the solar plexus, push him down. He went face first onto the pavement and didn't get up. Lena stood over him, breathing steady, and stared at her own hands. 5 years. 5 years of running. Over. She picked up the dropped weapon. Glock 19. Full magazine. She checked the action, confirmed a round in the chamber, and walked back toward the diner. The shooting had stopped. Inside, emergency lights flickered on, battery-powered strips that cast everything in dim red. Bodies littered the floor. Lena counted 15 down. Most of Marcus's men. A few were groaning, wounded but alive. Most were still. Victor Hale stood in the center of the room, his expensive suit torn and bloodied. He had a gun in each hand. One of his bodyguards was down, not moving. The other was pressed against the wall, bleeding from a leg wound. Marcus Kane was nowhere in sight. Victor's eyes tracked Lena as she stepped through the door, weapon held low but ready. He looked at her for a long moment. Recognition flickered across his face. Not recognition of her specifically, but of what she was. "You're not a waitress," he said. "Tonight I'm not." "You did this?" Lena looked at the bodies. Some of it. Actually, she'd killed 8 of them. In the dark, moving through the diner like a ghost, using the chaos to cover her strikes. Throat cuts, mostly. Silent, efficient. The rest had been Victor and his remaining bodyguard. "Why?" Victor asked. Good question. Lena didn't have a good answer. Instinct? Adrenaline? Maybe just exhaustion from running for so long? "Because I was here," she said finally. Victor studied her. Blood dripped from a cut above his eye. Marcus ran, took half his men out the back when he realized what was happening. "You're welcome." "I didn't thank you." "You should." A siren wailed in the distance. Someone had called the police. Of course they had. 30 armed men descending on a roadside diner? Somebody noticed. Victor holstered one of his weapons. "We need to leave. Now." "We? You just killed 8 people to save my life. That makes us allies, whether you like it or not. And when the police start investigating, when Marcus starts asking questions, your face is going to appear on very dangerous radar." He walked toward her, limping slightly. "So unless you want to spend the rest of your very short life running from both the law and Marcus Kane's entire organization, I suggest you come with me." Lena thought about it, about running again, about finding another diner in another nowhere town, serving coffee to truckers who didn't care about her name, about being invisible. She looked down at the Glock in her hand, at the bodies on the floor, at the parts of herself she'd tried to bury. "Where's your car?" she asked. Victor smiled, a grim expression that held no humor. "Out back. Black Mercedes. Keys are in my pocket. Can you walk?" "Fast enough." Lena nodded. She helped Victor's wounded bodyguard to his feet. The man, she didn't know his name, probably never would, gritted his teeth but managed to move. Together, the 3 of them went out the back door, stepping over bodies and spent brass casings. The Mercedes was parked behind a dumpster. Victor had planned for an escape route. Smart. Lena got behind the wheel. Victor didn't argue, which told her he was hurt worse than he was letting on. His bodyguard collapsed in the back seat. "Where am I driving?" Lena asked. "North. I'll direct you." Victor pulled out a phone, started making calls in a low, urgent voice. "Cleanup crew. Medical. Safe house." The police sirens were getting closer. Lena pulled out of the parking lot and onto the highway, heading north, leaving the diner and its corpses behind. She kept her speed exactly at the limit. Didn't draw attention. In the rearview mirror, red and blue lights lit up the horizon. "What's your name?" Victor asked, ending a call. "Lena." "Last name?" Does it matter? I suppose not. He was quiet for a moment. That was impressive. What you did back there. It was messy. Messy is better than dead. True enough. They drove in silence for 15 minutes. Lena watched the road, her mind churning through scenarios. Marcus Kane would be hunting them now. He'd lost half his crew and failed to kill Victor. That meant escalation, more violence, more bodies. And she was part of it now. 5 years of hiding, gone in 15 minutes. Take the next exit, Victor said. Lena followed his directions through a series of back roads until they reached a farmhouse set back from the main road. No lights, isolated, the kind of place that didn't appear on most maps. A man waited on the porch, older, gray-beard, shotgun cradled in his arms. He nodded at Victor. Inside, Victor said. Marcus is going to be looking for us. We have maybe 4 hours before he gets organized. The farmhouse was sparse but functional. Someone had set up a medical station in the kitchen. Victor's bodyguard got immediate attention from a woman who didn't introduce herself and didn't ask questions. Victor sat down heavily at the kitchen table. You're former military. It wasn't a question. Something like that, Lena said. Special operations? Does it matter? Yes, because I'm trying to figure out who you are and why you were working in a diner in the middle of nowhere. Lena met his eyes. I was hiding. From? My past. Victor laughed, a short, bitter sound. Aren't we all? He winced, touching his ribs. How bad is it? You've got at least 2 cracked ribs, possible internal bleeding, and that cut above your eye needs stitches. How do you know about the ribs? The way you're breathing. Short, shallow. You're trying to minimize movement. You a medic too? I know enough. The woman working on Victor's bodyguard glanced over. He's right. You need to be looked at. Later. Victor pulled out his phone again, scrolled through messages. His expression darkened. Marcus is already spreading the story. Says I attacked his men. Says I'm a dangerous criminal who needs to be eliminated for everyone's safety. Politics. War. Victor set down the phone. He's going to come at me with everything. My territories, my businesses, my people. He won't stop until I'm dead and buried. So what are you going to do? Victor looked at her. Fight back. But I can't do it alone. Most of my crew is scattered. Marcus had people on the inside. I don't know who I can trust. And you think you can trust me? You saved my life. That's more than I can say for half the people on my payroll. Lena walked to the window, looked out at the dark field stretching toward the horizon. Somewhere out there, Marcus Kane was organizing his next move, calling in favors, deploying assets. And she was a loose end. She'd killed 8 of his men. Her face would be on security cameras. Witnesses would describe her. In less than 24 hours, every criminal organization between here and the coast would have her picture. Running wouldn't work anymore. What do you need? She asked. Information first. Marcus has someone inside my organization. I need to know who. Second, I need to secure my daughter. She's at a private school in Virginia. Marcus will go after her to leverage me. You have a daughter? Yes. Victor's voice was flat, but Lena heard the worry underneath. 15. She doesn't know what I do. I kept her separate from all of this. Does Marcus know about her? He knows everything. That's the problem. Lena thought about it. A 15-year-old girl, unaware that her father ran a criminal empire, about to become a target because of decisions made in a roadside diner at 3 a.m. Not her problem. Except it was. Because Lena had made a choice. She'd stepped back into the world she'd run from. And that world didn't let you leave halfway. I'll help you get your daughter, Lena said. After that, we're even. After that, you're a target for the rest of your life. Marcus won't stop looking for you. Let him look. Victor smiled again, that same grim expression. You're either very brave or very stupid. Maybe both. The woman finished with Victor's bodyguard and moved to Victor. He submitted to her examination with poor grace, hissing when she pressed his ribs. Definitely cracked, she confirmed. You need a hospital. Not happening. Then you need to rest. At least for a few hours. We don't have hours. But his body disagreed. Lena could see the exhaustion creeping in, the adrenaline wearing off, the pain taking over. Victor was running on fumes. 4 hours, Lena said. You rest. I'll keep watch. Then we move on your daughter. And the mole? We'll figure it out. But you're no good to anyone if you pass out from blood loss. Victor wanted to argue. She could see it in his eyes. But he was pragmatic enough to know she was right. He nodded slowly. 4 hours. Then we move. The woman led Victor to a back room. His bodyguard was already unconscious on a couch, sedated and bandaged. The farmhouse settled into an uneasy quiet. Lena checked the weapons she'd acquired. The Glock, plus a knife she'd taken from one of the bodies in the diner. Not much, but enough. She positioned herself near a window with a clear view of the approach road and settled in to wait. The old man with the shotgun brought her coffee. You military? Was. Which branch? The kind that doesn't exist. He nodded, understanding. Those are usually the best kind. Or the worst, depending on your perspective. Both, probably. He sat down across from her. Victor's a good man, runs a hard business, but he's fair, doesn't hurt people who don't deserve it. You work for him? I owe him. Different thing. He helped my daughter when she got in trouble with some bad people. Didn't ask for anything in return, just helped. Lena didn't respond. She didn't need to know Victor Hale's virtues. She'd made a tactical decision to help him secure his daughter. After that, they'd go their separate ways. Except deep down, she knew that wasn't true. She'd killed 8 people tonight, ended 8 lives in less than 5 minutes. And the worst part? It had felt easy, natural, like coming home. Outside, the sky began to lighten. Dawn was maybe an hour away. Lena watched the road, sipped her coffee, and tried not to think about the fact that she'd just destroyed 5 years of careful, quiet invisibility in one night. Her phone was back at the diner. Her car, too. Her apartment had nothing worth keeping. She'd learned to travel light, to own nothing that couldn't be replaced in 30 minutes. But that was the old version of running. This was different, because she wasn't running anymore. Victor emerged from the back room exactly 4 hours later, moving stiffly, but with more color in his face. He'd changed clothes. Someone had stitched the cut above his eye. Status? He asked. Quiet, no movement on the road. Marcus is planning something. Obviously. Victor pulled out his phone, made a series of calls. Lena listened to half conversations, piecing together the situation. Victor's organization was fragmenting. People were choosing sides, some staying loyal, others jumping to Marcus. We need to move, Victor said, ending a call. My daughter is being moved to a safe location, but we have a 12-hour window before Marcus figures out where. Then let's not waste time. They took the Mercedes. Victor's bodyguard stayed behind to recover. The old man with the shotgun promised to watch over him. Lena drove. Victor navigated and made calls. The morning traffic started to build as they approached the interstate. Tell me about Marcus, Lena said. What do you want to know? How long has he worked for you? 10 years, started as muscle, worked his way up, smart, ambitious, ruthless. When did you realize he'd turned? Victor was quiet for a moment. 2 months ago. Small things at first. Shipments going missing, information leaking. I started investigating quietly. And he found out. Yes, which is why he moved up his timeline. Last night was supposed to be a simple meeting to discuss territory disputes. Instead, it was an execution. He underestimated you. He underestimated us both. Lena merged onto the interstate, heading east toward Virginia. The morning sun was fully up now, turning the sky orange and gold. Your daughter, Lena said. Does she have security? 2 guards. Good people. But if Marcus sends a full team, they won't last long. So we get there first. That's the idea. They drove in silence for a while. Lena kept checking mirrors, watching for tails, old habits. Can I ask you something? Victor said. You can ask. Why were you working in that diner? I told you I was hiding. From what? Lena thought about how much to say, about the operations that went wrong, about the people she'd worked for, about the reasons she'd walked away from everything. From myself, she said finally. From what I'm good at. Killing people? Solving problems with violence. Same thing, usually. And now? Now I'm solving your problem with violence. Funny how things work out. Victor almost smiled. You have regrets? About last night? No, those men came to kill you. They would have killed me too eventually. Witnesses don't last long in these situations. I meant about your past. Whatever made you run. Lena didn't answer right away. She thought about the missions that haunted her, about the faces of people she'd eliminated on orders from people whose names she never knew. Every day, she said quietly, but regret doesn't change anything. The past is done. Surprisingly philosophical for a killer. We're all killers, Victor. Some of us just admit it. They drove through the morning, eating up miles. Victor made more calls, moving pieces on a chessboard Lena couldn't see. Money getting transferred, people getting relocated, assets being secured. Around noon, they stopped at a rest area. Victor needed to stretch his ribs, and Lena needed coffee that didn't taste like it had been sitting on a burner for 6 hours. Inside the convenience store, Lena caught her reflection in a glass door. She looked tired, wired. There was blood on her collar from the diner, barely visible against the black fabric. She bought a new shirt from the rack, changed in the bathroom, stuffed the old one in the trash. When she came out, Victor was on the phone again, his expression grim. "We have a problem," he said, hanging up. "What kind?" "Marcus found my daughter's location. He's got a team moving on her school right now." Lena felt ice slide through her veins. "How far are we?" 2 hours. "How long until his team arrives?" 90 minutes, maybe less. Lena was already moving toward the car. "Then we need to drive faster." They hit the highway at 90 miles per hour. Lena pushed the Mercedes hard, weaving through traffic, using every gap. Victor braced himself against the dashboard, making calls, trying to warn his daughter's security team. "No answer," he said, voice tight. "Keep trying." The miles blurred past. Lena's focus narrowed to the road, the traffic, the clock. 60 minutes, 50, 40. Victor's phone rang. He answered immediately. "Talk to me," he said. Lena heard shouting on the other end. Gunfire. Victor's face went white. "Get her out of there, now! We're 20 minutes away." More shouting. The line went dead. "They're inside the school," Victor said. "Marcus's team. They're inside." Lena pressed the accelerator harder. The Mercedes hit 110. 15 minutes later, they screamed into the parking lot of a private boarding school, expensive and isolated. Lena could see the damage immediately. Broken glass, doors hanging open, students running across the lawn, and bodies. 2 of them wearing security uniforms. Victor was out of the car before it fully stopped. Lena followed, weapon drawn. Inside, the school was chaos. Teachers trying to corral students, more bodies. Marcus's team had come in hard and fast. "Where?" Lena asked. Victor was already running toward a staircase. "Her room, 3rd floor." They took the stairs 3 at a time. Lena led, weapon up, clearing corners. Behind them, sirens approached. Someone had called the police. 3rd floor. Victor pointed at a door halfway down the hall. It was open. Inside, the room was wrecked. Overturned furniture, scattered books, signs of a struggle, but no daughter. Victor stood in the center of the room, breathing hard, his face a mask of barely controlled rage. "They took her," he said. Lena was already looking for clues. She found a phone on the floor, screen cracked but still working. Victor's daughter's phone, probably. It buzzed with an incoming text. From Marcus Kane. "We need to talk. I have something of yours. You have something of mine. Let's make a trade." Below the text was an address and a photo. A teenage girl, blonde, terrified, tied to a chair. Victor stared at the photo for a long moment. When he looked up at Lena, his eyes were cold, dead. "He just made this personal," Victor said quietly. Lena nodded. "Then let's go get her back." But as they left the room, as police flooded into the building below, Lena knew this was only the beginning. Marcus Kane had Victor's daughter, which meant the game had changed, and the body count was about to get much, much higher. Part 3. Louis y Viet sao nghìn đến sao nghìn năm trăm to liên kết liên mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện và hội thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liền mạch khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liền mạch với phần trước không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới, liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch, sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần. Duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề phụ, phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ, giống văn giàu cảm xúc. Kể theo ngôi thứ ba, giữ đồ kịch tính không viết lan man, nhân vật không hoàn hảo, hội thoại tự nhiên, tránh ngôn ngữ văn chương sáo rơi và cụm từ AI điển hình. Viết như nhà văn chuyên nghiệp, không như AI cố gắng nghe sàng. Có yếu tố con người, cầm miêu tả qua mượt mà và hoàn hảo, kết thúc phần không giới thiệu phần sau. Lưu ý trả lời trong mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang document, chi dần bắt buộc, không được xuất hiện trong nội dung truyền. Đây là một câu chuyện điện ảnh hoàn toàn hư cấu được tạo ra chỉ nhằm mục đích giải trí, không đề cập hay ngụ ý rằng nó dựa trên sự kiện có thật, người thật hoặc câu chuyện có thật. Không sử dụng các cụm từ như dựa trên một câu chuyện có thật, theo ghi chép hoặc bất cứ điều gì tương tự. Tất cả các nhân vật, địa điểm, tổ chức và sự kiện phải hoàn toàn hư cấu. The police took 4 hours to process the scene at Martha's Diner. By the time they finished cataloging bodies and collecting shell casings, the sun was coming up and Lena was already 50 miles away, heading east on back roads that didn't have cameras. Victor sat in the passenger seat, his breathing shallow, one hand pressed against his ribs. He hadn't complained once, but Lena could see the pain etched in the lines around his eyes. His bodyguard in the back had passed out from blood loss about 20 minutes into the drive, his leg wound soaked through the makeshift bandage they'd applied. How far to this safe house? Lena asked. Another hour. Maybe less if you keep driving like this. I'm going 5 over the limit. Any faster, and we draw attention. Smart. Victor pulled out his phone, winced at the movement, started scrolling through messages. Marcus is already moving. He's got people calling my lieutenants, offering them deals to switch sides. Will they? Some will. Money talks, and Marcus has deep pockets. But the ones who matter, the ones who've been with me since the beginning, they'll hold. You sure about that? Victor looked at her, his expression grim. No, but I have to believe it or this whole thing falls apart. They drove in silence for a while. Lena kept checking mirrors, watching for tails, but the road stayed empty. Just farmland and scattered houses, people waking up to a normal day while Lena's world had just exploded into violence. She thought about the men she'd killed in the diner, 8 of them. She could remember each one clearly, the way they'd moved in the dark, the sounds they'd made when her knife found them, the weight of bodies hitting the floor. It should have bothered her more than it did. Should have triggered something, guilt or remorse or at least hesitation. Instead, she felt calm, centered, like she'd been sleepwalking for 5 years and had finally woken up. You're good at this, Victor said, breaking the silence. At what? Killing people, staying calm under pressure. Most people would be shaking right now. I'm not most people. Clearly. What were you before the diner? Special Forces? CIA? Lena didn't answer. Some questions didn't deserve answers, and her past was full of them. Victor didn't push. Fair enough. We all have things we don't talk about. The safe house turned out to be a hunting cabin deep in the woods, accessible only by a dirt road that barely qualified as a path. Someone had prepared it recently. Fresh supplies in the kitchen, medical equipment laid out in the bedroom, weapons stored in a locked cabinet. They got Victor's bodyguard inside first, laid him on the bed. Lena examined the leg wound, confirmed the bullet had passed through without hitting the artery. Lucky. She cleaned it, packed it with gauze, wrapped it tight. The man groaned but didn't wake up. Victor sat heavily in a kitchen chair, finally allowing himself to show the pain. Lena went to work on him next, cutting away his ruined shirt, examining the damage. 2 cracked ribs for sure, maybe 3. Bruising across his torso that would get worse before it got better. The cut above his eye had stopped bleeding but needed proper stitches. You need a hospital, Lena said. Can't risk it. Hospitals report gunshot wounds. Police would be there in minutes. Then you need rest and medication. Lots of both. I need to make phone calls first. Shore up my organization before Marcus picks it apart. Victor, I know my limits. I'll rest. But first, I handle business. He was already pulling out his phone, making calls. Lena left him to it, went to check the perimeter. The cabin was well positioned, good sight lines, only one approach road. Defensible if it came to that. She found cameras mounted in trees, motion sensors along the path. Whoever owned this place took security seriously. Back inside, Victor was deep in conversation, his voice low and urgent. Lena caught fragments. Assets being moved, accounts being secured, people being warned. The logistics of a criminal empire under siege. She made coffee, found bread and eggs in the kitchen, cooked breakfast because her body needed fuel, even if her mind was still processing everything. The normalcy of it felt surreal. Cracking eggs while Victor Hale coordinated his response to an attempted coup. "Eat something," she said, setting a plate in front of him when he finally hung up. "Not hungry." "Eat anyway. You're running on adrenaline and it's going to crash soon. You need calories." Victor looked at the eggs, then at her. "You're bossy." "I'm practical. There's a difference." He ate, slowly at first, then with more appetite. Lena sat across from him, working through her own food mechanically. Outside, birds were singing. Morning had arrived like nothing had happened, like 30 men hadn't tried to execute someone in a roadside diner 6 hours ago. "Thank you," Victor said eventually. "For what?" "For saving my life. You didn't have to do that." "I was there. I couldn't just watch." "Most people could. Most people would have run or hidden or pretended they didn't see anything. I'm not most people." Victor smiled slightly. "So you keep saying." He set down his fork, studied her. "What are you going to do now?" "I don't know. My cover's blown. My face is on security cameras. Marcus knows I exist, even if he doesn't know who I am yet. He'll find out. He's got resources, connections. Give him 24 hours and he'll have your full background. Then I have 24 hours to decide what to do about it. You could run, new city, new identity, start over again." Lena thought about it. About finding another diner in another nowhere town, pouring coffee for another 5 years, pretending to be someone she wasn't. The idea made her tired just thinking about it. "Or?" she asked. "Or you could stay. Help me fight this. Marcus won't stop with me. He'll consolidate power, take over my territories, and a lot of people are going to suffer for it. People who depend on the order I maintain." "You're a crime lord, Victor. You don't maintain order, you maintain control. There's a difference." "Maybe. But my control keeps worse people out. Marcus doesn't have rules, doesn't have limits. Under him, things will get bloody fast." "Things are already bloody. They'll get worse, trust me." Lena stood, walked to the window. Through the trees, she could see the dirt road they'd come in on, empty and quiet. Somewhere out there, Marcus Kane was organizing his next move. Police were investigating the diner. Her old life was burning down whether she liked it or not. "I'll help you get your daughter," she said finally. "After that, we're done. I'm not signing up for a war." "Fair enough." "But Lena," Victor's voice was serious. "The war's already started. The only question is which side you're on." She didn't have an answer for that. Victor made more calls. Lena learned his daughter was named Sarah, that she was 15 and at a private boarding school in Virginia, that Victor had kept her deliberately separated from his business. Smart, but it also made her vulnerable. Marcus would know about her, would use her if he got the chance. "My security team says the school's locked down," Victor reported. 2 guards on Sarah's dorm, another 2 on campus perimeter. Should be enough to keep her safe for now." "Should be isn't the same as will be." "I know, but I can't move her without drawing attention. Marcus has eyes everywhere." "Then we need to move fast, get to her before Marcus does." Victor checked his watch. "It's an 8-hour drive to the school. If we leave now, we can be there by late afternoon." "You need to rest." "I'll rest in the car. We're wasting time." Lena wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. Every minute they stayed put was a minute Marcus could use to organize. They needed to move, needed to stay ahead of whatever he was planning. They loaded Victor's still unconscious bodyguard into the back seat of the Mercedes, left the cabin exactly as they'd found it, and headed east. Lena drove, Victor made calls, and the miles accumulated like debts they couldn't pay. Around noon, Victor's phone rang. He looked at the screen, his expression darkening. "Marcus," he said, then answered, "I'm surprised you're calling." Lena couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but she watched Victor's face, saw the anger building there. "No," Victor said flatly. "Absolutely not." More talking from Marcus. "You don't have the authority to make that offer. Those territories aren't yours to give." Victor listened for another moment, then his face went pale. "You're lying," he said, but Lena heard the uncertainty in his voice. The call ended. Victor sat very still, staring at nothing. "What did he say?" Lena asked. "He says he already has Sarah. Says if I want her back, I need to surrender my organization and disappear. He's bluffing." Maybe, but I can't reach my security team. Calls go straight to voicemail. Lena felt ice in her stomach. Try the school directly. Victor did, got transferred 3 times, finally reached someone in administration. His side of the conversation was terse, controlled, but Lena saw his hands shaking. They can't find her, he said after hanging up. Sarah's not in her room, not in classes. Security team isn't responding. The school's going into lockdown, but it might already be too late. How long ago? They're not sure. Last confirmed sighting was breakfast. 3 hours ago. 3 hours was a lifetime in this business. Marcus could have moved her anywhere by now. Out of state, out of the country. Could have her locked in a warehouse or a safe house, or already dead as a message. He's not going to kill her, Lena said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. She's worth more alive as leverage. You don't know that? Yes, I do. Marcus wants your empire. Dead daughter might satisfy revenge, but it doesn't get him what he wants. He needs you compliant, broken, willing to give up everything to save her. Victor closed his eyes, took a shaky breath. When he opened them again, they were cold, dead. The kind of expression Lena had seen in mirrors after bad operations. If he hurts her, Victor said quietly, I will burn his entire world down. Everyone he knows, everyone he's ever talked to, everyone who's ever worked for him. I will make them all disappear. We're not there yet. First, we find her. How? Marcus has hundreds of properties, dozens of locations he could use. We don't even know where to start. Lena thought about it, running through scenarios. Marcus had moved fast, which meant he'd planned this in advance. Had people in place, knew Sarah's schedule, had contingencies ready. This wasn't opportunistic. This was calculated. He'll keep her close, Lena said. Somewhere he can control. Somewhere he can produce her quickly if he needs to prove she's alive. That still leaves dozens of possibilities. Then we narrow it down. Where would Marcus feel safest? Where does he operate from? Victor pulled out his phone, opened a map application, started marking locations. Warehouses, offices, apartments, houses. The infrastructure of a criminal empire spread across 3 states. This one, he said, pointing to a warehouse in Petersburg. It's his primary distribution point. Secure, isolated, only his most trusted people have access. Would he risk keeping her somewhere that important? If he wanted to send a message, yes. Show that he's in control, that he can do whatever he wants. Victor zoomed in on the location. It's a 40-minute drive from here. Then that's where we start. They changed course, heading south toward Petersburg. Victor made more calls, trying to gather intelligence, but most of his people were either dead, missing, or too scared to answer. Marcus's coup was working. The organization was fragmenting. I built this over 20 years, Victor said bitterly. 20 years of careful planning, smart deals, calculated risks, and Marcus is tearing it apart in less than a day. He had help. Someone on the inside fed him information. I know. I've been trying to figure out who. Marcus knew too much, moved too fast. Someone close to me has been selling me out for months. Any ideas? Too many. Could be anyone. Victor's phone buzzed with an incoming message. He read it, his expression darkening further. 3 more of my people just declared for Marcus. They're not even pretending loyalty anymore. Rats leaving a sinking ship. I'm not sunk yet. No, but you're taking on water fast. They reached Petersburg as the sun started its descent toward the horizon. The warehouse Marcus used was in an industrial area, surrounded by other warehouses and loading facilities. Legitimate businesses mixed with criminal enterprise, making everything look normal. Lena did a drive-by first, studying the location. 2 loading docks, both closed. A front entrance with a card reader. Windows on the 2nd floor, some lit, some dark. No obvious security, but that didn't mean anything. She parked 3 blocks away. We need to scout it properly. Going in blind is how people die. We don't have time for proper reconnaissance. We make time. Otherwise, we walk into a trap and Sarah stays missing. Victor wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. They sat in the car, watching the warehouse through binoculars, counting people, tracking patterns. Over the next hour, they saw 6 different men enter through the front door. All of them moved with purpose. None of them looked like civilians. Marcus's crew, Victor confirmed. I recognize 3 of them. Any sign of Sarah? No, but they wouldn't parade her around. At sunset, a black SUV pulled up to one of the loading docks. The door rolled up, the vehicle pulled inside, the door rolled back down. 30 seconds, start to finish. Someone important just arrived, Lena said. Or they're moving something. Could be Sarah. Only one way to find out. They waited until full dark, then approached on foot. Lena had the Glock she'd taken from the diner, plus a knife. Not ideal for assaulting a defended position, but it would have to do. Victor was armed too, though Lena doubted he could move fast enough to use his weapon effectively. His ribs were getting worse, his breathing more labored. The loading dock entrance was locked, but Lena had learned to pick locks before she'd learned to drive. 30 seconds with a tension wrench and a pick, and the door clicked open. Inside, the warehouse was dark except for lights showing under a door at the far end. Lena could hear voices, indistinct but present. At least 3 people, maybe more. She moved through the darkness with Victor behind her, both of them silent. Years of training for Lena, years of criminal experience for Victor. They reached the lighted door, took positions on either side. Lena risked a quick look through the small window in the door. 3 men sitting around a table, playing cards. Weapons within easy reach. No sign of Sarah. She's not here, Lena whispered. She has to be. This is Marcus's primary location. Then she's somewhere else in the building. They backed away from the door, searched the ground floor. Offices, storage areas, a break room, all empty. No Sarah, no guards, nothing but the 3 card players. Second floor was the same. More offices, a conference room, bathroom. Empty. Maybe we were wrong, Victor said. Maybe she's not. A sound from above. Footsteps on the roof. Lena and Victor froze, looked at each other. The warehouse had a 3rd floor they'd missed, probably used for storage or as a lookout point. They found the stairs at the back of the building, narrow and steep. Lena went first, weapon ready, every sense alert. At the top, a single door, unlocked. Beyond it, a large open space filled with crates and equipment, and in the center, tied to a chair, was Sarah Hale. She looked terrified but unharmed. Blonde hair tangled, eyes red from crying, but no visible injuries. 2 guards stood near her, both armed, both looking bored, until Lena shot them. 2 quick shots, both suppressed by the makeshift silencer she'd constructed from parts in the warehouse. Not perfect, but quiet enough. The guards dropped without making a sound. Sarah screamed through her gag. "It's okay," Lena said, moving quickly to untie her. "Your father sent me. You're safe." Victor appeared in the doorway, saw his daughter, and nearly collapsed with relief. "Sarah." The girl saw him, started crying harder. Lena got the ropes off, removed the gag. Sarah immediately threw her arms around her father, sobbing into his shoulder. "I'm sorry," Victor said, holding her tight despite his injured ribs. "I'm so sorry. This is my fault." "I was so scared," Sarah gasped between sobs. "They said they were going to kill me. They said..." "It's over. You're safe now, I promise." Lena was already checking the windows, looking for escape routes. They'd just killed 2 of Marcus's men. When those card players downstairs realized their colleagues weren't responding, they'd come investigating. "We need to move," she said. "Now." They got Sarah to her feet, headed for the stairs, made it halfway down before Lena heard voices from below. The card players calling out, wondering why it was so quiet. "Back up," Lena whispered. They retreated to the 3rd floor. Lena could hear footsteps on the stairs now, multiple people coming up to investigate. They were trapped. The windows. Lena ran to the nearest one, looked out. Fire escape on the outside leading down to an alley. It was old, probably hadn't been used in years, but it was there. "Can you climb?" she asked Sarah. The girl nodded, still crying but trying to be brave. Lena forced the window open, helped Sarah through first, then Victor. She went last, pulling the window closed behind her just as the 3rd floor door burst open. They climbed down the fire escape as fast as they could, Victor moving slowly, grimacing with every step. Behind them, Lena heard shouting. Someone had found the bodies. They hit the alley at a run, Sarah supporting her father, Lena covering their rear. Gunshots cracked from the window above, rounds sparking off the pavement around them. Lena returned fire without looking, just shooting in the general direction to keep heads down. They rounded a corner, then another, putting distance between themselves and the warehouse. By the time they reached the Mercedes, Lena could hear sirens. Someone had called the police. Of course they had. Gunshots in an industrial area, bodies in a warehouse. This was going to be all over the news. She got Victor and Sarah into the car, pulled out fast but not recklessly. Drew attention was how you got caught. In the back seat, Sarah was still crying, clinging to her father. Victor held her with one arm, his other hand pressed against his ribs, his face gray with pain. "Where are we going?" Sarah asked. "Somewhere safe," Victor said. "Somewhere Marcus can't find us." "He found me at school. How do you know he won't find us again?" "Because this time we're not running, we're fighting back." Lena glanced in the rearview mirror, caught Victor's eyes. He was serious. No more defense, no more reaction. He was going on offense, which meant things were about to get a lot worse before they got better. They drove through the night, changing routes randomly, making sure they weren't being followed. Sarah fell asleep eventually, exhausted from fear and adrenaline. Victor stayed awake, making calls, reorganizing what was left of his empire. "I need a favor," he said after ending yet another call. "What kind?" "The kind where you use those skills you don't talk about. I need to know who betrayed me, who's been feeding information to Marcus. I'm not an investigator." "No, but you know how to read people, how to track patterns. I've seen you work. You're good at finding things people don't want found. You want me to hunt down your mole. I want you to help me figure out who I can trust, because right now, I don't know. And not knowing is going to get us all killed." Lena thought about it. She'd spent 5 years running from exactly this kind of work, from making life or death decisions, from playing spy games, from all the complications that came with trust and betrayal. But she'd already made her choice back at the diner, had already stepped back into this world. Might as well see it through. "Give me access to your communication logs," she said. "Phone records, emails, meeting schedules. Everything from the past 6 months. Done." They stopped at a truck stop just before dawn, used the restrooms, got coffee and food. Sarah was awake again, quieter now, watching her father with new understanding. She'd known he was involved in dangerous things, but knowing and seeing were different. "Are we going to be okay?" she asked Lena while Victor was on the phone. "I don't know. Your father's made some powerful enemies." "Because of what he does?" "Yes." "Is he a bad person?" Lena considered the question. Victor Hale was a criminal, ran drugs, laundered money, probably had people killed. But he also protected his territory, kept worse people out, operated with some kind of code. "He's complicated," Lena said finally. "Like most people." "Are you complicated too?" "Very." "Did you kill those men? In the warehouse?" "Yes." Sarah absorbed that. "Thank you for saving me." "You're welcome." They got back on the road. Victor directed them to a property he owned under a shell company, a farmhouse in rural North Carolina that nobody knew about except him and his lawyer. Isolated, defensible, stocked with supplies. It was almost peaceful. Sarah took the bedroom, fell asleep immediately. Victor and Lena sat at the kitchen table, going through communication logs on Victor's laptop. Patterns emerged slowly. Meetings that Marcus shouldn't have known about but did. Shipments that got intercepted. Information that leaked at exactly the wrong times. "There," Lena said, pointing to a name that kept appearing. "This person. They were present for every meeting that got compromised." Victor looked at the name, his expression going cold. "No, not them." "You sure?" "I've known them for 15 years. They've been loyal through everything." "Then they're either very good at playing both sides or someone's using their access. Either way, that's your leak." Victor stared at the screen for a long moment, then picked up his phone. Made a call. The conversation was brief and tense. "They're coming here," he said after hanging up. "Tomorrow morning. We'll know for sure then." "And if it's true? If they've been working with Marcus? Then I'll do what needs to be done." The words were cold, final. Lena recognized that tone. It was the sound of someone making peace with violence. She understood it completely. The next morning dawned gray and drizzling. Sarah made breakfast, trying to maintain some normalcy in a situation that was anything but normal. Victor sat at the table, weapon within reach, waiting. The suspect arrived at 9, driving a rental car, looking nervous. Lena watched from the window as they approached, reading body language, looking for tells. When they entered the farmhouse and saw Victor's expression, they knew immediately why they'd been summoned. "It's not what you think," they started. "Then explain it," Victor said calmly. "Explain how Marcus knew about 6 different meetings you attended. Explain how shipments you coordinated got intercepted. Explain how my daughter's school security got compromised." "Victor, I swear, I didn't—" "Don't lie to me. Not now." The truth came out slowly, painfully. They'd been compromised months ago, blackmailed over something in their past. Marcus had leverage, had threatened their family. They'd fed him information to protect people they loved. "You could have come to me," Victor said. "I was scared. Marcus said he'd kill them, my sister, her kids. I couldn't risk it. So you risked my daughter instead." "I didn't know he'd go after Sarah. I swear I didn't know." Victor stood up, walked over to them. Lena tensed, ready to intervene if necessary. "You betrayed me," Victor said quietly. "Cost me my organization, almost cost me my daughter. Give me one reason why I shouldn't kill you right now." "Because I can help you get it back. I know Marcus's plans, his locations, his people. I know everything." Victor considered that. "Talk. Tell me everything. Then we'll decide what happens to you." They talked for 3 hours, spilling every detail of Marcus's operation. Lena took notes, mapped it all out. Safe houses, distribution points, key personnel, financial structures. Everything Marcus had built to take over Victor's empire. When they finished, Victor looked at Lena. "What do you think?" "I think we have enough to hurt him. Not destroy him, but definitely hurt him." "Good enough." Victor turned back to his betrayer. "You're going to help us. You're going to contact Marcus, tell him you have information about where we're hiding, set up a meeting. He'll kill me if he finds out I'm helping you. Then don't let him find out. Do this right, and maybe you survive. Maybe your family stays safe. That's the best deal you're getting." It wasn't mercy exactly, more like pragmatism. Victor needed every advantage he could get. Over the next day they planned. The betrayer made contact with Marcus, arranged a meeting for the following night. A warehouse on the edge of Richmond, supposedly where Victor was hiding. Marcus took the bait. Lena spent the time preparing, checking weapons, planning entry routes. Sarah watched her work, curious. "You've done this before," the girl observed. "Something like it." "Were you a soldier?" "Something like that." "Do you like it, the violence?" Lena paused, considering the question. "No, but I'm good at it. And sometimes being good at something terrible is better than being bad at something good." "That doesn't make sense." "No, it doesn't." The night of the meeting, they moved into position early. Lena, Victor, and 4 of his remaining loyal people. Not much of an army, but enough for what they needed to do. The warehouse was exactly as described. Marcus arrived with 10 men, heavily armed, confident. The betrayer led them inside, playing their role perfectly. "Victor's in the back office," they said. "Hiding like a rat." Marcus smiled, gestured for his men to move in. That's when Lena cut the power. The warehouse plunged into darkness. Marcus's men shouted, flashlights came on, weapons were drawn. Lena moved through the chaos like smoke. Silent, precise, deadly. She'd done this before, in places worse than warehouses, against enemies better trained than Marcus's thugs. One by one, they fell. Not all of them. Lena wasn't alone this time. Victor's people were hitting from multiple angles, creating confusion, fear, the kind of tactical chaos that broke discipline. By the time the emergency lights kicked on, 5 of Marcus's men were down. The rest were scattered, pinned, losing. Lena found Marcus trying to escape through a side door. She put a round through the door frame next to his head, stopped him cold. "Freeze." Marcus turned slowly, hands raised, that confident smile gone. "Lena Voss, Victor's new pet killer." "Where is he?" "Victor. Probably dying in whatever hole he's hiding in. He looked pretty bad last time I saw him." "Wrong answer." Lena aimed at his knee. Wait, what do you want?" "I want you to leave. Take your people, get out of Virginia, and don't come back." Marcus laughed. "You think it's that simple? I've invested too much, come too far. Victor's empire is mine." "Was yours, past tense. Look around, Marcus. Your people are dead or running. Your coup failed, it's over." "It's not over until one of us is dead," Then it's over. Lena pulled the trigger. The shot echoed through the warehouse. Marcus crumpled, clutching his leg, screaming. Not a kill shot, a message. Victor appeared from the shadows, weapon drawn, his face carved from ice. You tried to kill me, he said to Marcus. You kidnapped my daughter. You destroyed my organization. Business, Marcus gasped through the pain. Nothing personal. Everything's personal. Victor raised his weapon. Lena stepped forward, put a hand on his arm. Don't, she said. He's not worth it. He tried to kill Sarah. I know, but if you kill him now, it proves him right. Proves this is just about violence and revenge. You're better than that. Am I? Yes. You told me yourself. You maintain order. You have rules. Marcus doesn't. Don't become him. Victor stood there, weapon pointed at Marcus's head, finger on the trigger. A long moment passed. Then he lowered the gun. Get out, he said to Marcus. Leave Virginia. If I ever see you again, I won't hesitate. Marcus's people helped him up, dragged him out. Lena watched them go, knowing this wasn't really over. Men like Marcus didn't quit. They regrouped, planned, came back harder. But that was a problem for another day. Victor's betrayer approached cautiously. What about me? Victor looked at them for a long moment. You're done. Leave town, change your name, disappear. If you're smart, I'll never see you again. And my family? Safe. As long as you keep your mouth shut. They nodded, relieved, and left quickly before Victor could change his mind. You think Marcus will actually leave? Lena asked. No, but we bought ourselves time. That's all we can ask for. They drove back to the farmhouse as dawn broke. Sarah was waiting, having refused to sleep until they returned. She saw her father was alive, mostly intact, and burst into tears. It's over, Victor told her. You're safe now. For how long? Victor didn't have an answer for that. Lena stood in the doorway, watching father and daughter hold each other, and she realized she'd made her choice. She wasn't disappearing again, wasn't running. Whatever came next, she was part of this now, for better or worse. The address Marcus sent led them to an industrial park on the outskirts of Richmond. Lena drove past it twice, mapping exits and sightlines while Victor worked his phone, calling in what was left of his resources. The building Marcus had chosen was a 4-story warehouse, mostly empty according to county records, owned by a shell company that probably traced back to one of his fronts. He wants us to walk into a kill box, Lena said, pulling into a gas station 3 blocks away. I know. Victor's jaw was tight, but he has my daughter, which is exactly why we don't walk through the front door like idiots. Victor turned to look at her. The cut above his eye had reopened, a thin line of blood trickling down his temple. He looked older than he had 12 hours ago, worn down by violence and fear. What are you suggesting? That we think this through. Marcus isn't stupid. He knows you'll come for her. He's counting on it. This whole thing is designed to finish what he started at the diner. So what's the alternative? Leave her? No. We get her back. But we do it smart. Lena pulled out the phone she'd taken from Victor's daughter's room. The last text from Marcus was still on the screen, along with that photo of the girl tied to a chair. 15 years old. Blonde hair like her father's had probably been before it went silver, eyes red from crying. Lena zoomed in on the background of the photo. Concrete walls, exposed ductwork, a window in the upper left corner showing darkness outside. When did Marcus send this? Victor checked the timestamp. 20 minutes ago. And it's almost sunset now. Lena studied the window angle. He's got her on an upper floor, east side, based on the light. How can you tell? The shadows. Sun's setting west, so if there's still ambient light coming through that window, she's facing east. Lena put down the phone. How many men can you get here? Maybe 6. Everyone else is either dead, missing, or I can't trust them. 6 isn't enough for a frontal assault. I know. But it might be enough for a distraction. Victor's eyes narrowed. You want to split up. Your people hit the main entrance, make noise, draw Marcus's forces down. While they're engaged, I go in the back, work my way up, get your daughter out, and leave my men to die as a diversion? You have a better idea? Victor didn't answer right away. He stared out the window at the industrial park, at the warehouse that held his daughter. Lena could see the calculation running behind his eyes. How many lives was one 15-year-old girl worth? His daughter, yes, but still just one person against the 6 men he'd be using as bait. They'll know the risk, Victor said finally. These are people who've been with me for years. They understand what this life costs. That doesn't make it right. No, but nothing about this is right. He pulled out his phone, started making calls. 3 hours. That's how long it'll take to get everyone in position. Marcus gave us until midnight. Then we have time. They spent those 3 hours preparing. Victor's men arrived in 2s and 3s, parking in different locations, staying off phones, moving carefully. Lena recognized the type. Hard men who'd seen violence and knew how to dispense it. Not soldiers, but close enough. One of them, a barrel-chested guy with a scar across his nose, gave Lena a long look. Who's she? Someone who saved my life, Victor said. That's all you need to know. She coming with us? No, she's going in alone. That got reactions. Muttered skepticism, a few laughs, one outright challenge from a younger guy with tattoos crawling up his neck. One person? Tattoo guy said. Against whatever Marcus has in there, that's suicide. Lena met his eyes. You ever serve? 2 tours, Iraq. Then you know, sometimes one person in the right place beats a dozen in the wrong one. He didn't look convinced, but he shut up. Victor spread a blueprint of the warehouse across the hood of a car. Marcus will have the main floor covered, probably the 2nd floor too. My daughter's on an upper floor, east side. How many hostiles? Scarnose asked. Unknown, could be 10, could be 30. Marcus pulled in people from 3 states for this. Great. So we're outnumbered and outgunned. That's why Lena's going in the back. Victor traced a route on the blueprint. Loading dock on the south side. Less visible, harder to cover. If she can get in there, work her way up while we keep them busy. She's got a chance. And us? Another man asked, older, graying. We hit the front, hard and loud. Draw their fire. Hold position as long as we can. Sounds like a last stand. It is, but it's the only play we have. The men absorbed that. Lena watched their faces. Fear, sure, but also resignation. They'd all chosen this life. They knew what it meant. Victor pulled Lena aside while his crew geared up. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. Why? You don't know me. You don't know my daughter. 12 hours ago, you were pouring coffee. 12 hours ago, I was lying to myself. Lena checked the Glock she'd been carrying, confirmed the magazine was full. I thought I could run from what I am. Turns out, I was wrong. And what are you? A weapon, same as you. Difference is, I tried to pretend I wasn't. Victor studied her for a long moment. If you get her out and I don't make it, you'll make it. If I don't, her name is Sarah. She has an aunt in Seattle, Eleanor Hale. Make sure she gets there safely. Lena nodded. She didn't like the implication that Victor was planning to die tonight, but she understood it. Men like him, men who built empires on violence, they didn't usually get to retire peacefully. At 11:30, they moved into position. Victor and his 6 men approached from the front, weapons out but not raised, walking openly toward the main entrance. Lena watched from 3 blocks away, crouched on a fire escape, using binoculars to track the movement. She saw Marcus's people immediately. Shadows in windows, figures on the roof, at least 15, maybe more. Victor was walking into exactly what she'd said, a kill box. But he was doing it anyway, for his daughter. Lena moved. She came in from the south exactly as planned, using the darkness between streetlights to stay invisible. The loading dock was chained shut, but the chain was old and the lock was rust. She had it open in 30 seconds. Inside, the warehouse was dark and smelled like oil and rats. Lena let her eyes adjust, then moved deeper, weapon up, clearing corners. Voices echoed from the front of the building. Victor talking to someone, Marcus probably. You wanted to trade, Victor's voice carried through the empty space. I'm here. Let my daughter go. Marcus's response was too quiet to hear. Then gunfire erupted. Not the controlled bursts of a firefight, but a full ambush. Automatic weapons opening up from multiple positions. Victor and his men returning fire, but they were pinned down immediately. Lena used the noise to move faster. She found a stairwell and took it up, moving on the balls of her feet, keeping her breathing controlled. second floor, third floor. On the fourth floor landing, she found a body. One of Marcus's men, throat cut, still warm. Someone else was in here. One of Victor's people? Or had Marcus anticipated this move too? She stepped over the body and entered the fourth floor proper. The space was divided into offices, most of them gutted. Lena moved through them systematically, checking each one. Empty. 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 Then she heard it, crying, muffled but distinct. She tracked the sound to a corner office with a single light showing under the door. Lena approached carefully, weapon ready. The door wasn't locked. She pushed it open slowly. Inside, Sarah Hale was tied to a chair in the center of the room, exactly like in the photo. Blonde hair disheveled, face streaked with tears, a gag in her mouth. Her eyes went wide when she saw Lena. But Lena's attention was on the room itself. Too open, too exposed. No guards, no cameras she could see. Just a 15-year-old girl tied to a chair. Wrong. This was wrong. She started to back out of the doorway, but it was already too late. The explosion threw her backwards, slamming her into the opposite wall. Not a bomb, she realized through the ringing in her ears, but a flashbang. Designed to disorient, not kill, which meant they wanted her alive. Figures moved through the smoke. 3 of them, wearing tactical gear, weapons raised. Lena tried to bring up her Glock, but her hands weren't responding correctly. The flashbang had scrambled her coordination. Someone kicked the weapon out of her grip. Another person grabbed her arms, yanked them behind her back, zip-tied her wrists together. "Got her," a voice said. Male, professional, subject secured. They hauled Lena to her feet and dragged her into the office where Sarah was still tied to the chair. The girl was sobbing now, trying to say something through the gag. Marcus Kane walked in 30 seconds later. He looked different than he had at the diner. More relaxed, confident. He'd changed into jeans and a pullover, casual, like this was just another night. "The famous Waitress," Marcus said, looking Lena up and down. "I have to admit, I'm impressed. 8 of my men dead in less than 5 minutes. That takes serious skill." Lena didn't respond. She was running calculations, measuring distances, looking for anything she could use. Marcus walked over to Sarah, put a hand on her shoulder. The girl flinched. "Victor's daughter. Insurance, really. I didn't think he'd actually come here himself. But then again, the man always did have a sentimental streak." "Let her go," Lena said. "She's not part of this." "Oh, but she is. She's leverage. The one thing guaranteed to make Victor Hale do something monumentally stupid." Marcus smiled. Which he did. He walked right in the front door with 6 men against 30. Did he really think that would work? "He thought you'd honor the trade." "Honor? In this business?" Marcus laughed. "Victor's problem is he still thinks there are rules. That if you play fair, others will too. But the world doesn't work that way anymore. If it ever did." Downstairs, the gunfire had stopped. Lena's stomach dropped. Either Victor and his men had won, which seemed unlikely given the odds, or they were dead. Marcus must have seen something in her expression. "Don't worry, Victor's still alive. Wounded, captured, but alive. I need him for the next part." Which is? A very public execution. Victor Hale, crime lord, brought to justice by Marcus Kane, upstanding citizen. I'll have video, witnesses, the whole thing. By tomorrow morning, every territory he controlled will be mine. Clean transfer of power. You think his people will just accept that? They won't have a choice. The alternative is war with an organization that just wiped out their leadership in a single night. Marcus walked over to Lena. "And you're going to help me sell the story." "I'm not helping you do anything." "You will. Because if you don't, I'll start cutting pieces off this girl while you watch." He said it casually, like he was discussing the weather. "Fingers first, then toes, then we get creative." Sarah's sobbing intensified. Lena met Marcus's eyes. She saw no hesitation there, no bluff. He'd do exactly what he said. "What do you want?" Lena asked. "Simple. You're going to tell everyone that Victor Hale hired you to kill me, that he's been planning a hostile takeover of my operations, that everything I did was self-defense. No one will believe that. They will when they see the video of you saying it. Former special operations, mysterious past, appears out of nowhere to help Victor. It's a perfect narrative." Marcus gestured to one of his men. Set up the camera. They positioned Lena in front of a tripod, Sarah visible in the background. Marcus handed her a script, 3 paragraphs of lies about Victor's supposed crimes. Read it, Marcus said. Nice and clear. 1 take, and the girl lives. Lena looked at the script, looked at Sarah, looked at the men with guns surrounding them. She couldn't fight her way out, not zip-tied, not against this many armed guards. And even if she could, they'd kill Sarah first. But she could stall. I'll read it, Lena said. But first, I want to know what happened to Victor. You said he's alive. Prove it. Marcus considered that. Fair enough. He pulled out his phone, pulled up a video, showed it to Lena. Victor was on his knees in what looked like the warehouse's main floor, hands bound, bleeding from multiple wounds. His 6 men were sprawled around him, not moving. Dead or unconscious, Lena couldn't tell. Satisfied? Marcus asked. Let me talk to him. Why? Because I want to hear him say this is what he wants, that he's willing to trade his reputation for his daughter's life. Marcus laughed. You think he has a choice? Everyone has a choice. Philosophical. I like that. Marcus made a call. Bring Victor up here. They waited. Lena used the time to test her zip ties, but they were tight and well placed. She'd need a blade or something sharp to cut through them. Sarah had stopped crying. She was watching Lena with wide, terrified eyes. Lena tried to project calm, confidence, but she wasn't sure it was working. Victor arrived 5 minutes later, dragged between 2 guards. They dumped him on the floor in front of Lena. He looked worse than in the video. Blood soaked through his shirt. His breathing was labored, and his eyes weren't focusing right. Concussion, probably. Victor, Marcus said, your friend here wants your permission to destroy your reputation. What do you say? Victor looked up at Lena. Their eyes met. She saw pain there, and rage, but also understanding. He knew what Marcus was doing, forcing him to choose between his legacy and his daughter. Do it, Victor said, his voice rough. Say whatever he wants. Victor, just do it, Marcus smiled. See? Everyone's reasonable when you give them the right motivation. He turned to his camera operator. Start recording. The red light came on. Lena looked directly into the lens. She was about to destroy whatever was left of Victor Hale's empire, about to paint him as a violent criminal who deserved everything Marcus had done to him. And she was going to do it because a 15-year-old girl was crying in the background, and she didn't have any other play. My name is Lena Voss, she began, reading from the script. I was hired by Victor Hale 6 months ago to... The lights went out. All of them. The office, the hallway, the entire building. Complete darkness. Lena moved instantly. She threw herself backward, rolling, hearing gunfire erupt where she'd been standing. Someone shouted orders. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness. Lena's hands were still zip-tied, but she'd been working the plastic against the edge of the chair when Marcus wasn't looking. It wasn't broken, but it was weakened. She yanked hard, felt it start to give. More gunfire. Someone screaming. The zip tie snapped. Lena's hands were free. She stayed low, using the darkness and chaos. Found one of Marcus's guards by sound, came up behind him, grabbed his weapon, used it to club him across the temple. He went down. She took his knife, his flashlight, his radio. Report, Marcus's voice on the radio. What's happening down there? Static. Then, we're under attack. Multiple hostiles. West entrance. They're... The transmission cut off in gunfire. Someone was hitting the warehouse. But who? Victor's people were dead or captured. Unless he'd had a backup plan he hadn't told Lena about. She moved toward Sarah's last position, found the chair, felt for the girl. Sarah was hyperventilating, close to panic. I'm going to cut you free, Lena whispered. Don't scream, don't run, stay with me. She sliced through the ropes, pulled the gag away. Sarah immediately grabbed onto her arm, shaking. Where's my dad? Close, we're getting him too. Lena moved through the darkness. Sarah pressed against her back. She could hear Marcus shouting orders, his men scrambling to respond to whatever was happening downstairs. She found Victor by following the sound of labored breathing. He was still on the floor where they'd dumped him, hands bound, semi-conscious. Victor? Lena shook him. Stay with me, we're leaving. His eyes opened. Sarah? I'm here, Dad. The girl's voice cracked. Get her out of here. I'm getting both of you out. Lena cut his bonds, tried to pull him up. He made it halfway before his legs gave out. Too much blood loss, too much damage. I can't, Victor said. Leave me. Take Sarah. Not happening. Lena, shut up and lean on me. She got Victor's arm over her shoulder, took most of his weight. Sarah grabbed his other side, trying to help. Together, they stumbled toward the stairwell. Behind them, Marcus was screaming into his radio. Lock down the building! No one gets out! Find them! Lena made it to the stairs, started down. Each step was agony, Victor's weight threatening to pull them all down. Sarah was crying again but staying quiet, being brave. Second floor. Gunfire intensified below them. Whoever was attacking Marcus's people, they were winning. First floor. Lena could see muzzle flashes, hear shouting. She steered them away from the main fight, toward the loading dock where she'd entered. They were 20 feet from the exit when someone stepped into their path. Marcus Kane. He had a gun in each hand, pointed at them. His face was calm, but Lena could see the fury in his eyes. It's over, Marcus, Victor said, breathing hard. Your people are losing. Then we all lose together. Marcus raised both weapons. Lena moved. She shoved Sarah and Victor to the side, drew the knife she'd taken, threw it in one fluid motion, not at Marcus, but at the light fixture above him. The knife severed the chain. The heavy industrial light dropped like a stone, crashing into Marcus's shoulder, knocking him sideways. Both guns went off, bullets sparking off concrete. Lena was already moving, closing the distance, driving her shoulder into Marcus's midsection, taking him down. They hit the ground hard. Marcus tried to bring one of the guns around, but Lena trapped his wrist, twisted, heard bones crack. He headbutted her. Stars exploded across her vision. She felt him getting leverage, throwing her off. They rolled, fighting for control. Marcus got his broken hand free, drove a fist into Lena's ribs, the same ribs that were already bruised from the diner. Pain whited out her vision. She felt him reaching for his other gun. Sarah screamed. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. Marcus jerked, his eyes going wide. He looked down at the spreading red stain on his chest, then up at Victor. Victor was holding one of the dropped guns, his hand shaking, barely able to keep the weapon raised. That's for my daughter, Victor said quietly. Marcus tried to say something, but blood bubbled from his lips instead of words. He collapsed, twitching once, then going still. Lena got to her feet, ribs screaming. We need to move. Victor nodded, but he was swaying. He'd used the last of his strength to save Lena, and now he was running on nothing. They made it out the loading dock into the night air. Behind them, the gunfire was dying down. Whoever had attacked the warehouse had won. Lena got Victor and Sarah to the Mercedes, which she'd left 3 blocks away. Sarah climbed in the back with her father, cradling his head in her lap. Stay with me, Dad, she kept saying. Please stay with me. Lena drove. She had no destination, just a direction. Away. Her hands were shaking now, adrenaline crash hitting hard. Her ribs felt like broken glass every time she breathed. Behind them, sirens approached the warehouse. Police, fire, ambulance. Someone had called in the chaos. Victor's phone rang. Lena fished it out of his pocket, answered. It's done. The voice was familiar. Scar Nose. Victor's man from earlier. Marcus is dead, his crew is scattered. The ones who survived are already flipping, offering information for immunity. What about Victor's men? Lena asked. 4 dead, 2 wounded but stable. And Victor? Lena looked in the rearview mirror. Victor was unconscious, his breathing shallow. Critical. He needs a hospital. Can't risk it, not yet. Police are looking for everyone involved. But I know a doctor off the books. I'll text you an address. The address came through 30 seconds later, a veterinary clinic 40 minutes outside Richmond. Lena drove through the night, checking mirrors constantly, expecting pursuit that never came. Sarah sat in the back, holding her father's hand, whispering to him. The clinic was dark when they arrived, but a side door opened as Lena pulled up. A woman in scrubs gestured them inside. They carried Victor into a back room that had been converted into a makeshift operating theater. The woman, the doctor, presumably, went to work immediately, barking orders to an assistant Lena hadn't noticed. He's lost a lot of blood, the doctor said. I'll do what I can, but he needs a real hospital. Not an option, Lena said. Then pray I'm good enough. Sarah stood in the corner, arms wrapped around herself, watching them work on her father. Lena went to her, put a hand on her shoulder. "He'll be okay," Lena said, not knowing if it was true. "Who are you?" Sarah asked. "Really?" "Someone who was in the wrong place at the wrong time." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I have." They waited for 3 hours while the doctor worked. Lena paced, checked windows, listened to police scanners on a radio she found. The warehouse attack was all over the news. Multiple casualties, suspected gang violence, FBI getting involved. Victor's name was being mentioned. So was Marcus Kane's. The narrative was already forming, two criminal organizations destroying each other, which was exactly what Marcus had wanted, just not the way he'd planned. Finally, the doctor emerged, stripping off bloody gloves. "He'll live. The next 48 hours are critical, but if he makes it through that, he'll recover." Sarah collapsed into a chair, sobbing with relief. Lena felt the tension drain out of her shoulders. "Can we see him?" "Briefly. He's sedated, but you can sit with him." Victor looked pale against the white sheets, hooked up to machines that beeped quietly. Sarah took the chair next to him, holding his hand again. Lena stood in the doorway, watching. This wasn't her family, wasn't her world, really. She'd stumbled into it by accident, or fate, or whatever you wanted to call the chaos that had started in a diner 24 hours ago. She should leave, disappear again, find another nowhere town, another anonymous job. But she knew she wouldn't, because Sarah was looking at her like she was a lifeline, because Victor had chosen to save her instead of himself when Marcus had the gun, because somewhere in the last day, these people had become something more than strangers. Scarnose called an hour later. "The FBI is rounding up everyone connected to Marcus's organization. Victor's name is in the mix, but without Marcus to testify, they don't have much. His lawyer's already working on a story. Victor was a victim. Marcus tried to kill him. The warehouse was self-defense." "Will it work?" "Maybe. Depends on what evidence they find, but Marcus kept his operation compartmentalized. Most of his people don't know Victor's role, and the ones who do are dead or running." "What about me?" "You're a ghost. No cameras caught your face, no witnesses who lived can identify you. Far as the law knows, you don't exist." Lena closed her eyes, back to being invisible, just the way she'd wanted it 5 years ago. Except now it felt hollow. "Thank you," she said. "Victor's the one you should thank. He's the one who called in the backup team. He knew Marcus would double-cross him, so he had Plan B waiting outside. When the power got cut, they moved in. Smart. That's Victor, always 3 moves ahead." A pause. "He's going to want to see you when he wakes up. You going to be there?" Lena looked at Sarah, still holding her father's hand, exhausted but refusing to leave his side. "Yeah," Lena said. "I'll be here." She hung up, found a chair in the corner of the room, and settled in to wait. Her ribs ached. Her head pounded. Her hands had stopped shaking, but she could still feel the ghost sensation of Marcus's throat under her grip, the knife leaving her hand, the moment of impact. She'd killed Marcus Kane. Not directly, but she'd created the opening that let Victor take the shot. Another body on the pile. Another name she'd never forget. Sarah looked over at her. "What happens now?" "Now we wait. Your dad heals. The lawyers handle the legal stuff. You go back to school." "What about you?" "Good question. What about her?" "I don't know," Lena admitted. "Will you stay?" "Until Dad wakes up at least?" Lena nodded. "Yeah, I'll stay." Outside, dawn was breaking. The first light filtered through the clinic windows, turning everything gray and uncertain. Lena watched Victor breathe, watched Sarah fight to stay awake, and wondered what version of herself she'd become when the sun finally rose. Not the waitress. That woman was gone, burned away in muzzle flashes and violence. Not the soldier she'd been before either. That version of herself had died years ago. Something new, maybe. Something she didn't have a name for yet. Someone who'd chosen to fight when she could have run. Someone who'd saved a 15-year-old girl and a crime lord, and maybe, in some small way, saved herself too. The machines beeped steadily. Sarah's breathing evened out as sleep finally took her. Lena sat in her corner chair, weapon within reach, watching the door, and let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, this story didn't have to end in blood and running. Not yet, anyway. Part 4. Lưu ý. Viết 6.000 đến 6.500 từ liên kết liền mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện. Pha hồi thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liền mạch khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liền mạch với phần trước, không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới. Liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch. Sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần. Duy trì chủ đề. Tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề phủ, phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ, giống văn giàu cảm xúc. Kể theo ngôi thứ 3, giữ đồ kịch tính không viết lan man, nhân vật không hoàn hảo. Hồi thoại tự nhiên, tránh ngôn ngữ văn chương, sáo rơi và cụm từ AI điển hình. Viết như nhà văn chuyên nghiệp, không như AI cố gắng nghe sàng. Có yếu tố con người, cấm miêu tả quả mượt mà và hoàn hảo, kết thúc phần không giới thiệu phần sau. Lưu ý trả lời trong mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang document. Tri dân bắt buộc, không được xuất hiện trong nội dung truyền. Đây là một câu chuyện điện ảnh hoàn toàn hư cấu được tạo ra chỉ nhằm mục đích giải trí. Không đề cập hay ngụ ý rằng nó dựa trên sự kiện có thật, người thật hoặc câu chuyện có thật. Không sử dụng các cụm từ như dựa trên một câu chuyện có thật, theo ghi chép hoặc bất cứ điều gì tương tự. Tất cả các nhân vật, địa điểm, tổ chức và sự kiện phải hoàn toàn hư cấu. Show less. 8:31. 1. Victor woke up 36 hours later, his eyes opening slowly like someone climbing out of a deep well. Sarah was asleep in the chair next to him, her head resting on the edge of his bed, one hand still clutching his. Lena saw his confusion first, then recognition, then the calculation that never really stopped even when he was half dead. Sarah, he croaked, his voice like gravel. The girl jerked awake, saw her father looking at her, and burst into tears. She threw her arms around him carefully, mindful of the tubes and bandages, sobbing into his shoulder. I thought you were going to die, she said between gasps. I thought I lost you. Victor's hand came up, shaking, to stroke her hair. I'm here. I'm okay. Lena stood near the window, giving them space. She'd barely left the clinic in those 36 hours, catching sleep in chairs, eating whatever the doctor's assistant brought her. Her ribs were taped now, the pain manageable with pills she didn't like taking but needed. The news had moved on from the warehouse. The official story was forming exactly as Scarnose had predicted. Gang violence, territorial dispute, most of the key players dead or missing. Victor Hale's name appeared in a few reports, always as a victim, never as a participant. His lawyers were already building the narrative of a businessman caught in the crossfire of criminal enterprise. It might even work. After Sarah calmed down, after the doctor checked Victor's vitals and declared him stable, after the girl finally agreed to go get some real sleep in the clinic's back office, Victor looked at Lena. You stayed, he said. Someone had to watch the door. My people could have done that. Your people are scattered, dealing with the FBI, or dead. Besides, I owed you. For what? For shooting Marcus when he had me pinned. Victor shifted in the bed, wincing. You threw that knife. You created the opening. You took the shot. We're quite the team. Lena almost smiled. Terrible team. We barely survived. But we did survive. Sarah's alive. Marcus is dead. I'd call that a win. You almost bled out. You lost half your organization. The FBI is circling. Some win. Victor was quiet for a moment, looking at the ceiling. I've been building that empire for 20 years. Started with nothing, worked my way up, made alliances, eliminated threats, became someone people feared and respected. And in one night, Marcus nearly took it all apart. He got close. Too close. Which means I made mistakes, trusted the wrong people, got comfortable. He turned his head to look at her. What about you? What are you going to do now? Lena had been asking herself that same question for 36 hours. I don't know. You could disappear again. New town, new identity, new life. You're good at it. Apparently not good enough since I ended up in the middle of your war. That was bad luck. Wrong place, wrong time. Was it? Lena moved from the window to the chair Sarah had vacated. Or maybe I was tired of hiding. Maybe some part of me wanted an excuse to stop running. And now that you have? Now I don't know what I'm running toward. Victor studied her with those sharp eyes that missed nothing. I could use someone like you, someone I can trust, someone who's proven they'll fight when it matters. You want to hire me? I want to offer you a partnership. The organization needs rebuilding. I need people who aren't compromised, who don't have ties to Marcus's network. You'd have autonomy, resources, protection. Protection from what? From whatever you were running from before. From whoever might come looking now that your face was at that warehouse. Lena shook her head. My face wasn't at that warehouse. You heard Scar knows. I'm a ghost. Nobody knows who I am. Yet. But Marcus had people everywhere. Information brokers, hackers, people who trade in secrets. It's only a matter of time before someone pieces together that there was a woman at the diner, at the school, at the warehouse. Once they start asking questions, they'll find answers. He wasn't wrong. Lena had been operating on borrowed time since the moment she'd moved in that diner. Every action since then had created ripples, left traces. You couldn't kill that many people without leaving evidence. So you're offering me protection in exchange for what? More violence, more wars like the one with Marcus? I'm offering you a chance to stop running and start fighting on your own terms. Yes, there will be violence. This life guarantees it. But you'll have backup, resources, a reason to fight besides simple survival. I don't know if I want that life. What life do you want? Another good question. Lena thought about the diner, about pouring coffee at 3 in the morning, about being invisible and safe and slowly dying inside from the monotony of it all. I want to not wake up wondering if today's the day someone finds me. I want to not jump every time a door opens behind me. I want to sleep without dreaming about the people I've killed. Then you want the impossible. Victor's voice was gentle but firm. We don't get to forget. We don't get to erase the past. Best we can do is build something on top of it, something that makes the weight of it bearable. And you think working for you would do that? I think working with me might. There's a difference. The doctor came in then, interrupting the conversation to check Victor's bandages and adjust his medication. Lena used the opportunity to step outside, get some air, clear her head. The clinic was in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by fields and trees. Morning sun made everything look clean and new, like the violence of the past 2 days had never happened. Lena knew better. Violence didn't wash away with sunlight. It soaked into the ground, into the people who survived it, changed the landscape in ways that never fully healed. Her phone buzzed. Not her phone, actually, but the burner she'd taken from one of Marcus's men. She'd been monitoring it, watching the messages that came in from people who didn't know Marcus was dead yet. Offers of support, requests for orders, check-ins from various operations. This message was different. It was a photo. Black and white, grainy, clearly from a security camera. It showed Lena at the diner, standing behind the counter, coffee pot in hand. The timestamp said 2:43 a.m., 4 minutes before the shooting started. Below the photo was a single line of text. I know who you are. We need to talk. No signature? No number she recognized. Just the photo and the message. Lena felt ice slide down her spine. Someone had identified her. Someone had security footage from the diner. And that someone wanted to talk. She went back inside, showed the message to Victor. He looked at it for a long time, his expression unreadable. This isn't random. Someone's been digging specifically into that night. Marcus's people? Maybe. Or someone else who's interested in what happened. FBI, maybe. Or a rival organization looking to fill the power vacuum. What do I do? You respond. Find out what they want. But you do it carefully, and you don't go alone. I don't need backup for a conversation. You don't need backup until you do. These people already know more about you than they should. That means they're either very good at their job or they have resources we don't understand yet. Lena looked at the message again. Every instinct she had was screaming at her to run, to disappear before whoever sent this could find her. But Victor was right. Running wouldn't work anymore. She'd left too many traces, made too many moves. The only way through this was forward. How do I respond? She asked. Victor thought about it. Keep it simple. Ask where and when. See what they say. Lena typed, where? The response came back in less than a minute. There's a diner on Route 50, 20 miles west of here, tomorrow. Noon. Come alone. Another diner. Lena would have laughed if the situation weren't so serious. She showed Victor the response. He frowned. It's a trap. Probably. So you're not going. I have to. Whoever this is, they've got my photo. They know I was at the scene. If I don't show up, they'll just keep digging, keep pushing, until they find something worse. Then we set up our own trap. I'll have people positioned around the diner, covering exits, watching approaches. You go in, have your conversation, and if things go wrong, my people extract you. You're barely conscious. You can't coordinate an operation. I don't need to be mobile to make phone calls, and Scarnose knows what he's doing. Between the two of us, we can keep you covered. Lena wanted to argue, but the truth was she didn't have a better plan. Going in alone was suicide. Going in with backup at least gave her options. Okay, she said. We do it your way. But I'm going in armed, and at the first sign of trouble, I'm shooting my way out. Fair enough. They spent the rest of the day planning. Scarnose arrived with 3 other men, all of them veterans of Victor's organization, all of them loyal. They studied maps of the diner location, planned positions, established communication protocols. Lena watched them work, saw the efficiency that came from years of practice, and felt something close to relief. These weren't amateurs. They knew what they were doing. Sarah stayed in the back office, kept away from the planning. Lena checked on her once, found her doing homework like the world wasn't falling apart around her. Is my dad going to be okay? Sarah asked without looking up from her textbook. The doctor says yes. I mean, long term. Is this going to keep happening? People trying to kill him? Me getting kidnapped? Lena sat down across from her. I don't know. Your father's in a dangerous business. I figured that out. Sarah's voice was bitter. I'm not stupid. I knew he wasn't just a businessman, but I didn't think it was this bad. What are you going to do? What can I do? He's my dad. I love him, but I'm also terrified every time he leaves the house now. Talk to him. Tell him how you feel. Will it change anything? Probably not, Lena thought. Men like Victor didn't change. They evolved, adapted, but the core of what they were stayed the same. It might, she said instead. He almost died to save you. That means something. Sarah finally looked up, her eyes red. Will you protect him when I can't be there? I'll try. That's not a promise. No, but it's all I can give you. Sarah nodded slowly, accepting the honesty, even if she didn't like it. She went back to her homework, and Lena went back to the planning room, feeling the weight of that 15-year-old's expectations settling on her shoulders. The next morning, Lena drove to the diner alone, at least in appearance. Scarnose and his team were already in position, invisible but watching. She had a radio in her ear, a gun in her waistband, and a knife in her boot. Not enough to fight an army, but enough to make a statement. The diner was almost identical to Martha's place where this had all started. Same yellow booths, same smell of coffee and grease, same tired waitress behind the counter. Lena felt a pang of something close to nostalgia, which was absurd given how that night had ended. She took a booth in the back, ordered coffee, and waited. Noon came and went. Lena sipped her coffee, watched the door, listened to the quiet chatter on her earpiece as Scarnose's team reported nothing unusual. At 12:15, a woman walked in. She was maybe 60, gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, wearing a pantsuit that screamed federal government. She scanned the diner once, spotted Lena, and walked over without hesitation. Lena Voss, the woman said, sliding into the booth across from her. Or should I say, Elena Volkov? Or maybe Specialist E. Martinez? You've used so many names over the years. Lena kept her face neutral. Who are you? Deputy Director Sarah Chen, FBI. I run the Organized Crime Task Force for the Eastern Seaboard. She set a folder on the table between them. And I've been very interested in you for the past 48 hours. I don't know what you're talking about. Please. I have security footage from the diner, witness statements placing you at Victor Hale's daughter's school, and ballistics that match weapons you handled at the warehouse. I know exactly who you are and what you did. Lena's hand moved toward her weapon, but Chen held up a hand. I'm not here to arrest you. If I wanted that, you'd already be in cuffs. I'm here to talk. About what? About Marcus Kane, Victor Hale, and the power vacuum that's about to tear apart every criminal organization from here to Boston. Chen opened the folder, spread out photos. Crime scenes, mugshots, surveillance images. Marcus is dead, but his network is still operational. His lieutenants are fighting over territory. Other organizations are moving in, trying to grab what they can. It's going to be a bloodbath unless someone stabilizes the situation. And you think I can do that? I think Victor Hale can, and I think you're one of the few people he trusts right now. Chen leaned back. Here's my problem. I don't like Victor. He's a criminal. He's responsible for drug trafficking, money laundering, probably a dozen murders I can't prove. But he's also practical. He keeps violence to a minimum, maintains order, operates by a code. Compared to what's coming if his organization collapses, he's the lesser evil. You want me to help a crime lord rebuild his empire so you don't have to deal with something worse? I want you to help prevent a war that will kill hundreds of people and destabilize the entire Eastern Corridor. What Victor does with that opportunity is between him and his conscience. Lena studied Chen, looking for the angle. Feds didn't make deals like this unless they were desperate or playing a longer game. What do you get out of this? Lena asked. Stability, intelligence, and eventually, when the time is right, a case I can actually prosecute. Chen pulled out another photo, this one showing a man Lena didn't recognize. This is Dmitry Volkov, Russian mob, based out of New York. He's been trying to expand south for years, and Marcus's death just gave him the opening he needed. If he fills the vacuum, we're looking at a new level of violence. Human trafficking, weapons smuggling, the kind of brutality that makes Marcus Kane look civilized. So, you want me to help Victor fight off the Russian mob? I want you to help Victor consolidate power fast enough that Volkov doesn't get a foothold. After that, I don't care what you do. Disappear, stay with Victor, whatever. But right now, I need someone who can move quickly and isn't afraid to get their hands dirty. Lena felt the trap closing around her. Chen had orchestrated this perfectly. She couldn't run because Chen had evidence. She couldn't refuse because Volkov would come after her anyway, seeing her as a loose end from Marcus's network. The only way forward was through. What makes you think I'll agree to this? Because you're already in it. You saved Victor's life. You saved his daughter. You're part of his organization, whether you like it or not. All I'm offering is information and the FBI looking the other way while you do what needs to be done. Looking the other way permanently. Let's say temporarily. Once Volkov is dealt with, we'll reassess. It wasn't much of a deal, but it was better than nothing. Lena thought about Victor lying in that clinic bed, about Sarah doing homework while her father's world collapsed, about the choice she'd already made when she stayed instead of running. I need guarantees, Lena said. Immunity for anything that happens in the next 30 days. For me and for Victor. I can give you 72 hours. After that, you're on your own. That's not enough time. It's all I can authorize without raising questions. Take it or leave it. Lena looked at the photos spread across the table. Dmitry Volkov had cold eyes, the kind that enjoyed causing pain. If he took over Marcus's territory, a lot of people would die. Not good people, maybe, but people nonetheless. 72 hours, Lena said. And you provide real-time intelligence on Volkov's movements. Done. Chen pulled out a phone, slid it across the table. This is a secure line. My number's programmed in. Updates will come every 4 hours. After 72 hours, this conversation never happened. She stood up, collected her folder, and walked out without looking back. Lena sat alone in the booth, staring at the phone, feeling the weight of what she'd just agreed to. In her ear, Scarnose's voice crackled. You get all that? She asked. Every word. Victor's going to love this. Victor's going to hate this, but he'll do it anyway. She left money on the table for the coffee, walked out to her car and drove back to the clinic. The team followed at a distance, maintaining their cover until she was clear. Victor was sitting up in bed when she arrived, looking stronger, but still pale. Sarah was reading next to him, but she left when Lena came in, sensing the need for privacy. How did it go? Victor asked. Lena told him everything. About Chen, about Volkov, about the 72-hour window they had to prevent a war. Victor listened without interrupting, his face giving nothing away. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. The FBI wants to use us, he said finally. Yes. And after 72 hours, they'll hang us out to dry. Probably. But in the meantime, we get intelligence and immunity. Limited immunity. Don't push it. Victor smiled, that grim expression she was getting used to. Volkov's been a problem for years. Marcus kept him at bay through sheer brutality, but that only works when you're alive and terrifying. With Marcus gone, Volkov will move fast. He'll try to take everything in one push. Can we stop him? Not in 72 hours. Not with my organization in pieces. Victor shifted in the bed, grimacing. But we don't need to stop him. We just need to make him bleed enough that he backs off and waits for a better opportunity. You're talking about a war. I'm talking about a surgical strike. Hit his key people, disrupt his supply lines, make it clear that taking this territory will cost more than it's worth. Victor reached for his phone. Get Scarnose in here. We have work to do. Over the next 6 hours, they planned. Scarnose brought in maps, contact lists, intelligence reports. They identified Volkov's key lieutenants, his distribution points, his money flows. Chen's updates came like clockwork, providing real-time locations and movements. Volkov was already in Virginia, staying at a luxury hotel in Richmond, moving with a security detail of 8 men. He'd set up meetings with former Marcus associates, offering them better deals, more territory, protection from competitors. He's buying them out, Victor said, studying the reports. Smart. Why fight when you can just pay people to switch sides? Can we match his offers? Lena asked. No. I don't have that kind of liquid cash right now. Marcus froze a lot of my accounts before he died, and it'll take weeks to unfreeze them through legal channels. So we can't compete financially? No. But we can make his people question whether they'll live long enough to spend his money. It was brutal logic, but Lena understood it. In this world, loyalty was bought with either money or fear. If they couldn't afford the first, they'd have to provide the second. Who do we hit first? She asked. Victor pointed to a name on the list. Alexei Petrov. He's Volkov's head of security, former Spetsnaz, handles all the enforcement. If we take him out, Volkov loses his protection and his reputation. Where is he? According to Chen's latest update, he's at a warehouse in Petersburg, meeting with some of Marcus's old crew. 8 men total, maybe more. When? Tonight, 10 o'clock. Lena looked at the clock. It was already 6. 4 hours to plan and execute an operation against trained killers. Not ideal, but she'd worked with less. I'll need a team, she said. Take Scarnose and whoever he recommends, but Lena? Victor's voice stopped her at the door. Petrov is good, really good. Don't underestimate him. I won't. She found Scarnose outside, smoking a cigarette and looking at the sunset. We have a job, she said. I figured. He flicked the cigarette away. Who are we killing? Russian enforcer named Alexei Petrov. Former Special Forces. Very dangerous. Sounds like fun. When? 4 hours. How many people can you get? For something like this? 5, maybe 6. Anyone else I wouldn't trust in a fight. 6 is fine. Get them armed and briefed. We leave in 3 hours. Scarnose nodded and pulled out his phone, making calls. Lena went to check her own weapons, make sure everything was ready. The Glock she'd been carrying was familiar now, broken in through use. She had extra magazines, the knife, and a tactical vest someone had found for her. Not much, but it would have to do. Sarah found her in the small room where she'd been sleeping. You're leaving? Yeah. To kill people. To protect your father. It's the same thing. Lena didn't argue. Sarah was right. You should stay with your dad. He'll need you when he wakes up. He's not sleeping. He's planning this with you. He should be resting. He's never been good at resting. Sarah sat down on the bed. Are you coming back? I'm planning to. That's not a promise. No, it's not. Sarah looked at her hands. My mom died when I was 8. Car accident. After that, it was just me and Dad. I always knew he was into something dangerous, but he kept me separate from it. Safe. Then Marcus happened, and I realized safe was just an illusion. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm just saying I understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, and I'm grateful. But I'm also scared that one day you won't come back, and Dad will blame himself, and I'll lose him too. Lena sat down next to her. Your father is strong, stronger than you know. Whatever happens tonight, he'll survive it. He's survived worse. Have you? Yes. Then maybe you'll both make it. Maybe, Lena thought. Or maybe they'd both end up dead in a warehouse, adding their names to the list of casualties in a war nobody would remember in 5 years. She stood up. I need to go. Sarah nodded. Be careful. I will. The team assembled at 9. 6 men plus Lena and Scarnose. 8 total against 8 of Volkov's people, if the intelligence was right. Even odds, except Lena knew from experience that even odds meant nothing when the shooting started. They drove in 2 vehicles, taking back roads to avoid cameras. The warehouse in Petersburg was part of an industrial complex, mostly abandoned, perfect for the kind of meeting Petrov was having. Lena and Scarnose did a drive-by first, scoping the location. 2 guards outside, both armed with rifles. Lights on inside the main building. 2 vehicles parked near the entrance, a black SUV and a sedan. Same as the intel said, Scarnose noted. That's good. Means they're not expecting trouble. Or they're confident enough not to care. Either way, we have the element of surprise. They parked 3 blocks away and approached on foot. Lena took point, moving through shadows, using abandoned buildings for cover. The rest of the team followed in a loose formation, spreading out to cover approaches. At the warehouse, Lena held up a fist. Everyone stopped. She pointed to the 2 guards, then to 2 of their team. The men nodded, understanding. Silent shots dropped both guards within seconds. They didn't even have time to call out. Lena was already moving to the door, weapon up, Scarnose beside her. They breached fast and hard, entering a large open space filled with crates and industrial equipment. 8 men were gathered around a table in the center. They looked up at the sound of the door, hands reaching for weapons. Lena didn't hesitate. She fired twice, dropping the closest man. Scarnose took another. The warehouse erupted in gunfire. Lena dove behind a crate, rounds sparking off metal around her. She returned fire, keeping heads down, letting her team spread out and flank. Someone was shouting in Russian, Petrov probably, organizing his people. One of Victor's men went down, hit in the shoulder. Another took a round to the leg, but they were giving as good as they got. Bodies dropped on both sides. Lena moved through the chaos, using the industrial equipment as cover, getting closer to the center. She saw Petrov now, tall and broad, barking orders, firing with precise bursts. She lined up a shot, but he moved at the last second, her round punching through empty air. Petrov saw her. Their eyes met across the warehouse. He smiled, a cold expression, and started moving toward her with deliberate intent. This was it, the moment Victor had warned her about. Lena steadied her breathing, pushed down the fear, and prepared to face whatever came next. Part 5. Lưu ý cỏ. Viết 6.000 đến 6.500 từ liên kết liền mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện. Pha hối thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liền mạch khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liền mạch với phần trước, không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới. Liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch. Sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần. Duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu, dòng hoặc tiêu đề phụ, phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ, giống văn giàu cảm xúc. Kể theo ngôi thứ 3, giữ đồ kịch tính không viết lan man, nhân vật không hoàn hảo, hội thoại tự nhiên, tránh ngôn ngữ văn chương sáo rơi và cụm từ AI điển hình. Viết như nhà văn chuyên nghiệp, không như AI cố gắng nghe sàng. Có yếu tố con người, cấm miêu tả qua mượt mà và hoàn hảo. Phần 5 giải quyết hết vấn đề và kết thúc trọn vẹn câu chuyện. Lưu ý trả lời trong mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang document, chi dần bắt buộc, không được xuất hiện trong nội dung truyền. Đây là một câu chuyện điện ảnh hoàn toàn hư cấu được tạo ra chỉ nhằm mục đích giải trí, không đề cập hay ngụ ý rằng nó dựa trên sự kiện có thật, người thật hoặc câu chuyện có thật. Không sử dụng các cụm từ như dựa trên một câu chuyện có thật. Theo ghi chép hoặc bất cứ điều gì tương tự, tất cả các nhân vật, địa điểm, tổ chức và sự kiện phải hoàn toàn hư cấu. The relief lasted exactly 3 days. Lena was in the farmhouse kitchen, cleaning weapons at the table while Sarah did homework nearby. When Victor's phone rang, he answered, listened for maybe 10 seconds, then his face went white. When? He asked, his voice tight. Lena set down the Glock she'd been field stripping, watching Victor's expression deteriorate from bad to worse. How many? Another pause. I understand. Lock it down. Nobody in or out until I get there. He hung up, stared at nothing for a moment. What happened? Lena asked. Marcus hit 3 of my distribution centers, simultaneously. Burned them to the ground, killed everyone inside. Victor's hands were shaking. 12 people dead, millions in product gone. I thought he left Virginia. He did. This was coordinated from New York. He's not fighting us directly anymore. He's bleeding us dry from a distance. Sarah looked up from her textbook, fear creeping back into her eyes. Is he coming back for me? No, Victor said, but he didn't sound certain. You're safe here. He's targeting the business, not you. You don't know that. Victor didn't argue because she was right. They didn't know anything for certain anymore. Marcus had proven he could strike anywhere, anytime, despite being forced out of the state. I need to go, Victor said, already moving toward the door. Shore up what's left. Make sure the rest of my people aren't panicking. Bad idea, Lena said. Marcus might be waiting for exactly that, for you to come out of hiding so he can finish what he started. I can't run my organization from a farmhouse. People need to see me, need to know I'm still in control. You're not in control. You're barely holding on. Victor stopped, turned to face her. Then what do you suggest? Let me go. I'll assess the damage, talk to your people, report back. You stay here with Sarah where it's safe. They won't listen to you. You're not part of the organization. Then make me part of it. Give me authority. Because if you walk into one of those distribution centers right now, there's a good chance Marcus has people waiting to put a bullet in your head. Victor wanted to argue, but exhaustion and pain were catching up with him. His ribs weren't healing right. He was running on medication and willpower, and Lena could see the cracks forming. Fine, he said finally, but take Scarnose with you. He knows the people, knows the business. Between the two of you, you can handle it. Lena called Scarnose, arranged to meet him at the nearest burn distribution center. She checked her weapons, grabbed a jacket to conceal them, and headed for the door. Sarah intercepted her in the hallway. Bring him back. Your father's staying here. Bring him back to normal. He's been different since this started. Harder, colder, like he's turning into someone else. Lena looked at the 15-year-old girl, saw the wisdom that came from watching your world fall apart. Your father's trying to protect you. Sometimes that means becoming something you're not. Is that what happened to you? The question hit harder than Lena expected. Yeah, something like that. Did it work? Did you protect the people you cared about? Lena thought about Prague, about the team she'd lost, about all the reasons she'd ended up pouring coffee in a Missouri diner. No, she said honestly, it didn't work, but I'm trying to do better this time. She left before Sarah could ask more questions she didn't want to answer. The distribution center was still smoldering when Lena arrived. Fire trucks were pulling away, police were setting up a perimeter, and Scarnose was standing in the parking lot looking like someone had kicked his dog. 12 people, he said when Lena approached. Some of them I'd known for years, good people who didn't deserve this. Marcus doesn't care who deserves what. No, he cares about sending a message, and the message is that Victor's finished. They walked the perimeter, staying clear of the police investigation. The fire had been thorough, professional, accelerant used at multiple points, timed to create maximum damage. This wasn't random violence. This was calculated destruction. The other two sites? Lena asked. Same story. Coordinated hits, everyone inside dead before the fire started. Marcus wanted to make sure nobody escaped. He's trying to force Victor into a reaction, do something stupid out of anger. Is it working? Almost. That's why I'm here instead of him. Scarnose lit a cigarette, offered one to Lena. She declined. What's the play? We can't just sit here and take this. We need to figure out where Marcus is operating from. He's coordinating from New York, but he needs people on the ground here to execute. Find those people, we find a way to hit back. Victor's spy network is compromised. We don't know who to trust anymore. Then we build a new one, starting with the people who were loyal enough to die in these fires rather than switch sides. They spent the next 6 hours visiting the other burn sites, talking to surviving members of Victor's organization, piecing together information. Most people were scared, ready to run. A few were angry, looking for revenge. Lena collected names, locations, anything that might give them an edge. By evening, they had a lead. One of the arson teams had been spotted by a neighbor with a doorbell camera. The footage was grainy, but Scarnose recognized one of the faces. Tommy Rourke, he said. Used to work for Victor, switched to Marcus 6 months ago. If he's involved, he's probably coordinating the local operations. Where does he operate out of? Last I heard, a chop shop in South Richmond. Legitimate front, criminal operations in the back. Then that's where we go. Scarnose looked at her. Just the two of us? Rourke probably has a dozen guys there. Then we'll be creative. They hit the chop shop just after midnight, when the legitimate business was closed and only the criminal operations were running. Lena went in through the back. Scarnose took the front. No fancy tactics, no elaborate plan. Just fast, violent, overwhelming force. Lena dropped 2 guards before they knew she was there. Scarnose took out another at the entrance. By the time the shooting started, they were already inside, among the targets, making it hard for anyone to shoot without risking their own people. Tommy Rourke tried to run, made it maybe 10 feet before Lena tackled him, drove him face first into a workbench. She zip-tied his hands, dragged him into a back office, while Scarnose kept the rest of the crew pinned down. Tommy Rourke, Lena said, shoving him into a chair. We need to talk about Marcus Kane. I don't know anything. Wrong answer. Lena pulled out her knife, let him see it. Let's try again. Where is Marcus? I don't know. He doesn't tell us that stuff. We just get orders through intermediaries. Who's your intermediary? Tommy hesitated. Lena put the knife against his hand, pressed just hard enough to draw blood. A guy named Chen. He works out of a hotel downtown. The Roosevelt. Room 412. What else? That's all I know, I swear. Chen gives us targets. We hit them. I don't know anything about Marcus's location or his plans. Lena believed him. Low-level operators like Tommy never knew the full picture. That's how organizations protected themselves. One more question, Lena said. Did Marcus order the hits on those distribution centers? Yes. He wanted to send a message. Show that Victor's not untouchable. Message received. Lena left Tommy zip-tied in the office, rejoined Scarnose. The rest of the crew had scattered, not willing to die for a losing fight. Smart. They drove to the Roosevelt Hotel, a mid-range place that catered to business travelers. Room 412 was on the 4th floor, accessible by stairs or elevator. Lena chose stairs, moved quietly, weapon ready. The door to 412 was ajar. Bad sign. Lena pushed it open carefully, cleared the corners. Inside, the room was wrecked. Furniture overturned, blood on the walls, a body on the floor. Chen, presumably. Shot twice in the chest, once in the head. Professional execution. Someone got here first, Scarnose said from the doorway. Marcus cleaning up loose ends, making sure nobody can connect back to him. Or someone else is playing this game. Someone we don't know about yet. Lena searched the room, found Chen's phone on the bathroom counter. Locked, but she'd learned to bypass phone security years ago. 3 minutes with the right tools, and she was in. The message history was revealing. Chen had been coordinating with multiple people, all using coded language, but the pattern was clear. Marcus was running a distributed operation, using cutouts and intermediaries to insulate himself from direct exposure. But there was one message that didn't fit the pattern. Sent 3 hours ago, before Chen died. Problem: V's people asking questions. Need new protocols. The response came from a number Lena didn't recognize. Eliminate the problem. Move to secondary location. Await further instructions. She showed Scarnose. Marcus has another operation running. Something bigger than just the distribution centers. What kind of operation? The kind that requires secondary locations and new protocols. Lena scrolled through more messages. Chen was reporting to someone else. Not Marcus directly. Someone coordinating multiple cells. A lieutenant. Someone high up in Marcus's organization. Or someone outside it entirely. Someone using Marcus to destabilize Victor while they position themselves to take over both operations. Scarnose swore quietly. How deep does this go? Deeper than we thought. They left the hotel before the police arrived to investigate Chen's body. Lena called Victor from the car, gave him an update. It's not just Marcus, she said. Someone else is involved. Someone coordinating things from behind the scenes. Who? I don't know yet, but they've got resources, organization, and they're playing a longer game than Marcus. Victor was quiet for a moment. Come back to the farmhouse. We need to regroup, figure out our next move. Agreed. They drove through the night, Lena's mind working through scenarios. Someone was orchestrating this whole conflict, pushing Marcus and Victor into open war while they positioned themselves to pick up the pieces. The question was who, and what they really wanted. At the farmhouse, Victor was waiting with Sarah. He'd set up a command center in the dining room, maps and documents spread across the table. His face was drawn, pain etched deep, but his eyes were sharp. "Tell me everything," he said. Lena walked him through the evening. The burned distribution centers, Tommy Rourke, Chen's execution, the mysterious messages. Victor listened without interrupting, processing information like a computer. "This changes things," he said when she finished. "If there's a third player, we're not just fighting Marcus. We're fighting someone we can't see." "Do you have enemies besides Marcus? Other organizations who'd want to take you down?" "Dozens, but none with the resources to coordinate something this complex. This is professional, military-grade planning." "Could it be federal? FBI setting up a sting?" "Possible. But the feds don't usually murder their own informants. Chen was executed, not arrested." Sarah spoke up from where she'd been listening quietly. "What about the Russians? You said there was a Russian mob trying to expand into your territory." Victor looked at his daughter, surprised. "You've been paying attention." "I'm not stupid, Dad. I know what you do. I know who your enemies are." "The Russians are a possibility," Victor admitted. "Dmitry Volkov has been trying to move into Virginia for years. I've kept him out through a combination of force and negotiation. But if he saw an opportunity, if he thought Marcus and I would destroy each other, he'd move in and take everything," Lena finished. "Classic strategy. Let your enemies weaken themselves, then strike when they're vulnerable." "How do we prove it's Volkov?" "We don't, not yet. But we start looking in that direction." Victor made calls, reached out to contacts in New York and Boston, started asking questions about Russian mob activity. Lena went through Chen's phone more carefully, looking for patterns, connections, anything that might point to Volkov. 3 hours later, they had confirmation. One of Victor's contacts in New York reported unusual activity. Volkov had been meeting with former Marcus associates, offering them deals, promising protection. "He's recruiting," Victor said, "building his own network while we're distracted fighting Marcus. And Marcus probably doesn't even know he's being used. Or he does know and thinks he can control it." Lena thought about the message she'd found on Chen's phone. "Eliminate the problem. Move to secondary location." "Volkov's going to make a move soon," she said. "Within the next few days. He's positioning his pieces, waiting for the right moment." "Then we need to move first." "With what?" "Your organization is in pieces. Marcus's people are scattered. Volkov has a full network ready to deploy." Victor smiled grimly. "Then we do what we're good at. We improvise." Over the next 2 days, they built a plan. It was desperate, half-formed, full of holes, but it was the only option they had. Victor reached out to Marcus through intermediaries, proposed a meeting, neutral ground, limited security, a chance to end the war before Volkov took advantage of both of them. Marcus took the bait. The meeting was set for a warehouse on the outskirts of Richmond. Both sides agreed to bring no more than 5 people each. Weapons allowed but holstered. The pretense of civilized negotiation. Lena knew it was a trap. Victor knew it was a trap. But they were counting on Marcus being too arrogant to resist. The night of the meeting, Lena positioned herself on a rooftop across from the warehouse. Sniper rifle, borrowed from one of Victor's remaining contacts. Not her preferred weapon, but she'd been trained on it years ago. Through the scope, she watched Victor arrive with 4 of his people. Scarnose, plus 3 others she'd vetted personally. All loyal, all willing to die if necessary. Marcus arrived 10 minutes later, exactly as expected. 5 men with him, all heavily armed despite the agreement. He looked confident, relaxed. A man who thought he'd already won. Inside the warehouse, Lena couldn't hear the conversation, but she could read body language. Victor talking, Marcus responding, both men circling each other like wolves. Then the Russians arrived. 6 vehicles, pulling up from multiple directions surrounding the warehouse. 30 men, maybe more, all armed with automatic weapons. Volkov's crew, moving to take both Victor and Marcus in one sweep. Lena spoke into her radio. "Volkov's here. Execute Plan B." Plan B was simple. Survive long enough for help to arrive. Inside the warehouse, she saw Victor and Marcus both realize they'd been played. Saw them look at each other, come to a silent agreement. Enemy of my enemy. The Russians breached the warehouse from multiple points. Gunfire erupted immediately. Lena started taking shots, dropping targets, creating chaos in the Russian formation. Victor and Marcus's people fought back to back, using the warehouse's interior for cover. It should have been suicide. 30 against 9. But desperation and experience counted for something. Lena worked through her magazine methodically. One shot, one target. Russian after Russian dropping, not knowing where the rounds were coming from, creating fear, uncertainty. Her radio crackled. "Cavalry's here." The FBI arrived in force. Chen's murder had triggered an investigation, and Lena had made sure they knew where to look. Volkov's operation, his people, his coordination of the conflict between Victor and Marcus. The Russians found themselves surrounded. Some tried to run. Most surrendered. A few fought and died. Inside the warehouse, Victor and Marcus stood among the bodies, weapons still raised, looking at each other. Lena couldn't hear what they said, but she saw Marcus lower his weapon first. Saw Victor do the same. Not peace, exactly, but acknowledgement. They'd both been manipulated, both been used. The FBI moved in, started making arrests. Volkov's people were taken into custody. Victor and Marcus, by some miracle or arrangement Lena didn't understand, were allowed to leave. She packed up her rifle, disappeared from the rooftop before anyone could question her presence. By the time she reached the farmhouse, the sun was coming up. Victor was already there, sitting at the kitchen table with Sarah, looking more exhausted than Lena had ever seen him. "It's over," he said when Lena walked in. "Volkov's in custody. His organization is dismantled. Marcus and I reached an understanding. We'll split the territory, stay out of each other's way." "You trust him?" "No, but I understand him, and he understands me. That's better than most business relationships." Sarah looked between them. "What happens now?" Victor reached across the table, took his daughter's hand. "Now we rebuild. Different this time. Smaller, quieter. No more wars, no more playing empire." "You're really done?" "With the big operations, yes. I'm getting too old for this. Too tired." He looked at Lena. "But I could use a partner. Someone to help manage the transition, keep things stable." But Lena had been expecting the offer, had been thinking about it for days. "I'm not cut out for management," she said. "You're cut out for whatever you choose to be. You prove that." Sarah smiled slightly. "I think she should stay. We make a good team." "We barely survived," Lena pointed out. "Exactly. Barely surviving is better than definitely dying." Lena looked at the two of them, this crime lord and his teenage daughter, this family she'd stumbled into by accident. She thought about this diner, about 5 years of hiding, about all the reasons she'd run in the first place. And she realized she was tired of running. "Temporary," she said. "I'll stay temporarily, help you transition. After that, we'll see." "Fair enough," Victor said, smiling. They spent the rest of the morning planning the future, what Victor's new, smaller operation would look like, how they'd interface with Marcus's territory, what happened to the people caught in the middle. It wasn't perfect, wasn't clean, but it was something resembling peace. 2 weeks later, Lena was in the farmhouse garden, teaching Sarah basic self-defense, when Victor came out with his phone. "Problem," he said. Of course there was. Problems never stopped. "What kind?" "The small kind we can handle. Marcus has people pushing into my territory again. Nothing major, just testing boundaries. Want me to handle it?" "If you don't mind." Lena looked at Sarah. "Rain check on the lesson?" "Go. I'll practice the moves you showed me." Lena grabbed her jacket, checked her weapon, headed for the car. As she drove away from the farmhouse, she realized she was smiling slightly. This was her life now, not hiding, not running, fighting small battles, managing small crises, protecting people who mattered. It wasn't redemption, wasn't peace, but it was purpose. And for someone like Lena Voss, that was more than enough. The warehouse where Marcus's people were operating turned out to be a minor issue. 3 guys moving product without authorization. Lena convinced them to leave through a combination of rational argument and implied violence. When she got back to the farmhouse, Sarah was still practicing defensive moves in the garden. Victor was on the phone handling business. Everything normal, routine, stable. Lena sat on the porch steps, watching the sunset, and allowed herself a moment of something almost like contentment. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She considered not answering, but old habits died hard. "Yes?" "Lena Voss." The voice was female, professional. My name is Deputy Director Chen, FBI. We need to talk about your arrangement with Victor Hale. Ice slid down Lena's spine. I don't know what you're talking about. Please. We both know you've been working with Hale since the diner incident. We have surveillance, we have evidence. But I'm not calling to arrest you. Then why are you calling? Because we have a mutual problem. Dmitry Volkov might be in custody, but his organization is still operational. We need someone on the inside, someone who can provide intelligence without official channels. You want me to spy for the FBI? I want you to continue doing what you're doing. We'll provide support, resources, protection. In exchange, you keep us informed about organized crime activity in your region. And if I refuse, then we start building a case against Victor Hale, against you, against everyone involved in this mess. Your choice. Lena closed her eyes. Of course it couldn't be simple. Of course there was another complication, another layer, another deal to be made. I'll think about it, she said. You have 48 hours. After that, the offer expires. The line went dead. Lena sat there for a long moment, staring at her phone, thinking about choices and consequences and the impossibility of ever really escaping your past. Sarah came over, sat down next to her. Bad news? Complicated news. Want to talk about it? Not yet. They sat in silence as the sun disappeared below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. In the distance, Lena could hear Victor on the phone, still working, still fighting, still surviving. She'd made her choice at the diner, had chosen to fight instead of run. Everything since then had been consequences of that choice, and now she had another choice to make. The difference was, this time she wasn't alone. Whatever came next, she had people who had her back. Victor, Sarah, even Scarnose and the others. It wasn't much, but it was something. And sometimes, something was enough to keep fighting for. Petrov moved like water through the chaos, his weapon tracking Lena even as he used the industrial equipment for cover. She saw the training in every step, the economy of movement that came from years of combat. He wasn't panicking, wasn't rushing, he was hunting. Lena fired 3 times, forcing him to duck behind a steel support beam. She used the moment to reposition, rolling to her left, coming up behind a stack of wooden pallets. Around her, the firefight continued. Scarnose was pinned down near the entrance, trading shots with 2 of Petrov's men. The rest of Victor's team was scattered, trying to gain ground. A shadow moved to her right. Lena spun, but not fast enough. Petrov's boot caught her in the ribs, right where they were already damaged. White-hot pain exploded through her chest. She went down hard, weapons skittering across the concrete. Petrov was on her immediately, grabbing her by the throat, lifting her partially off the ground. His grip was iron, cutting off her air. Up close, she could see the scar tissue on his knuckles, the flat, emotionless eyes of someone who'd killed so many times it didn't register anymore. Victor sends a woman to do his work, Petrov said in accented English. Insulting. Lena couldn't breathe to answer. Black spots were dancing at the edges of her vision. She reached for the knife in her boot, fingers scrabbling for the handle. Petrov saw the movement, slammed her against the concrete floor. Her skull bounced off the hard surface, and for a moment everything went fuzzy. Then she felt the knife in her hand. She drove it upward, aiming for his armpit where the vest didn't cover. Petrov twisted at the last second, and the blade glanced off his ribs instead of finding the artery she'd been targeting. But it was enough to make him release her throat. Lena gasped for air, rolled away, kicked out at his knee. Petrov grunted, stumbled back. She scrambled for her dropped weapon, but he was already recovering, bringing his rifle around. 2 shots cracked from behind her. Petrov jerked, blood blooming on his shoulder. Scarnose had broken free from his position, was advancing with his weapon raised. Petrov retreated behind cover, returning fire. Lena grabbed her Glock, checked it quickly. Still functional. She took position next to Scarnose. "You good?" he asked. "Been better." Her voice was hoarse, throat already swelling. "How many are left?" 3, counting Petrov. "Where's our team?" 2 down, 1 dead. The others are holding the perimeter. Not good odds. They needed to end this fast before more of Petrov's people arrived or the police showed up. "I'm going to flank him," Lena said. "Keep him occupied." "That's suicide." "You have a better idea?" Scarnose didn't, which was answer enough. He nodded, adjusted his position, and started laying down suppressive fire. Lena moved along the far wall, using machinery and shadows to stay invisible. Her ribs screamed with every step. Her vision kept trying to blur from the head impact, but she pushed through it. Pain was just information. She could process it later. She came around behind Petrov's position. He was focused on Scar Nose, trading calculated bursts. Professional to the end. His shoulder was bleeding where Scar Nose had hit him, but he wasn't slowing down. Lena lined up her shot carefully. Center mass, accounting for the vest. She exhaled slowly, squeezed the trigger. The round caught Petrov in the back of the neck just above the vest line. He dropped instantly, weapon clattering from his hands. The warehouse went quiet. The two remaining Russians saw their commander down and made the smart choice. They threw down their weapons, raised their hands. Scar Nose and the rest of the team secured them quickly, zip-tying their hands, checking for additional weapons. Lena walked over to Petrov's body. He was still breathing, barely, blood pooling around him. His eyes tracked her as she approached. "Volkov will kill you for this," he whispered, blood bubbling from his lips. "Let him try." "He does not try. He succeeds." "We'll see." Petrov smiled, a red-stained expression. "You are already dead. You just do not know it yet." Then his eyes went flat, and he stopped breathing. Lena stood over him for a moment, feeling nothing. No satisfaction, no remorse, just the empty calculation of another problem solved. She'd killed before, would probably kill again. This was just one more body on the pile. "We need to move," Scar Nose said. "Sirens." Lena heard them too, distant but getting closer. Someone had called the police. They had maybe 3 minutes before this location was swarming with cops. "What about them?" She gestured to the two captured Russians. "Leave them. Let them explain this to their boss." It was brutal but practical. Volkov would know who'd hit his operation, and the survivors would carry that message. Fear was the point. They dragged their wounded to the vehicles, left the dead where they'd fallen. Lena took one last look at the warehouse, at Petrov's body, at the blood and brass casings scattered across the concrete. Another crime scene, another investigation that would go nowhere because nobody involved would talk. They were 3 blocks away when the first police cars arrived, lights painting the night in red and blue. Lena watched in the rear-view mirror as they secured the perimeter, officers moving with weapons drawn. "That's going to be all over the news," Scar Nose said from the passenger seat. "Probably. Victor's going to love that. Victor's going to hate it. But it sends the right message." They drove back to the clinic in silence, the wounded men in the back seat trying not to bleed too much on the upholstery. Lena's hands were steady on the wheel, but inside she was shaking. The adrenaline crash was coming, and it was going to be bad. At the clinic, the doctor went to work immediately on the wounded. One man had taken a round through the shoulder that had shattered his collarbone. Another had a leg wound that was bleeding heavily but hadn't hit the artery. The third man, the one who'd died, they'd left at the warehouse. Nothing to be done for him now. Victor was waiting in his room, sitting up in bed despite the doctor's protests. He looked at Lena's face, at the bruising already forming on her throat, at the way she was holding her ribs. "Petrov?" he asked. "Dead." "The rest?" "2 captured, 5 dead. We lost one." Victor absorbed that. "Who?" "Tommy, the young kid with the tattoos. He had a sister in Baltimore." Oh, Victor's voice was flat. "I'll make sure she's taken care of." Lena sat down heavily in the chair, suddenly exhausted. "Volkov's going to retaliate." "Of course he will. That's why we hit him again before he can organize. Keep him off balance, make him react instead of plan." "With what army?" "We lost 3 people tonight. 2 more are wounded. How many do you have left who can fight?" "Enough." Victor pulled out his phone, showed her a list of names. "These are people Marcus had on his payroll who've agreed to switch to my side. Not out of loyalty, but because they see which way this is going. Add them to my existing crew, and we have maybe 20 people. 20 against Volkov's entire organization. 20 is more than 0, and we have something Volkov doesn't." "What's that?" "Momentum, and the FBI looking the other way." Victor checked his watch. "We still have 48 hours of immunity left. That's enough time to hurt him badly enough that he backs off. Or it's enough time to get everyone killed. Maybe both." Lena laughed despite herself. a harsh sound that made her throat hurt worse. You're insane. I'm practical. This is the only play we have. We can't outbid Volkov, can't match his resources, can't negotiate from a position of weakness. So we hit him hard enough that negotiation becomes attractive. And if he doesn't want to negotiate, then we both lose everything, and someone else picks up the pieces. But at least we go down fighting. It was the kind of logic that only made sense in this world, where violence was currency and reputation was everything. Lena knew she should walk away, disappear while she still could. She'd done her part, saved Victor and his daughter, killed Marcus, and now Petrov. She didn't owe these people anything more. But she also knew she wasn't going to leave. Sarah appeared in the doorway, saw Lena's condition, and her face went pale. What happened? Work, Lena said. You look terrible. I've been told. Sarah came over, examined Lena's throat with gentle fingers. That's going to bruise badly. Can you breathe okay? Well enough. The doctor should look at you. The doctor has actual bullet wounds to deal with. I'm fine. Sarah didn't look convinced, but she didn't argue. Instead, she turned to her father. You need to rest. The doctor said, I know what the doctor said, but right now I need to make calls, coordinate our next move. Victor's voice was gentle but firm. This is almost over, Sarah. A few more days, and things will settle down. You said that before Marcus kidnapped me. Victor didn't have an answer for that. Sarah looked between him and Lena, her expression caught between fear and frustration, then turned and left the room. She's right, Lena said. You need to rest. I'll rest when Volkov is dealt with. You'll rest now or you'll collapse at exactly the wrong moment and get everyone killed. Lena stood up, wincing. I'll coordinate with Scarnose. We'll plan the next operation. You sleep for 6 hours. That's non-negotiable. Victor looked like he wanted to argue, but his body betrayed him with a massive yawn. The painkillers were kicking in, his adrenaline was fading, and the reality of his injuries was catching up. 6 hours, he agreed reluctantly. Then we move. Lena left him to sleep and found Scarnose outside, smoking another cigarette and staring at his phone. News? She asked. Warehouse shooting is all over the local channels. 8 dead, no IDs yet. Police are calling it gang-related. Close enough. Chen called. She wants an update. Lena pulled out the secure phone the FBI agent had given her, called the number. Chen answered on the second ring. Petrov's dead, Lena said without preamble. I know, I'm watching the news. Chen's voice was controlled, but Lena could hear the tension underneath. You know, you have the entire Petersburg Police Department looking for whoever did this, right? You said we had 72 hours. I said 72 hours of limited immunity, not carte blanche to start a war. This is going to draw attention we can't control. Then feed them a narrative. Russian mob infighting, territorial dispute, whatever keeps them looking in the wrong direction. I'm already working on it, but you need to slow down. If this escalates any further, I won't be able to protect you. We're not asking for protection. We're asking for time. Another 48 hours and this will be resolved. Or you'll all be dead and I'll be answering questions about why I didn't stop it. Chen was silent for a moment. Volkov is moving assets into Richmond. He's planning something big. My sources say he's bringing in reinforcements from New York and Boston. Maybe 30 additional men. When? Tomorrow night. He's setting up at a nightclub he owns in the city center. If you're going to hit him, that's when he'll be most vulnerable. A nightclub full of civilians? He's not stupid. He'll clear it out first, use it as a command post. But yes, it's a public location, which means collateral damage if things go wrong. Lena thought about it. A nightclub in the middle of Richmond, filled with Volkov's people. It was either the perfect trap or the perfect target, depending on how you approached it. Send me the details, she said. Lena, if you go after him there, this becomes an international incident. Russian mob boss killed on American soil? The Bureau will have to get involved officially. I thought that's what you wanted, a case you could prosecute. I wanted evidence and intelligence, not a massacre in downtown Richmond. You can't have it both ways, Chen. Either we stop Volkov or we don't. Pick one. Chen was quiet for a long moment. If you do this, you're on your own. I can't help you once you cross that line. We've been on our own since this started. Goodbye, Chen. Lena hung up before the FBI agent could respond. She looked at Scarnose, who'd been listening to the entire conversation. Nightclub, she said. Tomorrow night. Volkov and his entire crew in one location. That's either brilliant or suicidal. Probably both. They spent the rest of the night planning. Scarnose called in favors, assembled what was left of Victor's organization, briefed them on the operation. Lena studied blueprints of the nightclub, mapped exits, identified weak points. By sunrise, they had something resembling a plan. It was a terrible plan, full of holes and assumptions, but it was all they had. Victor woke up 6 hours later exactly as promised, looking marginally better. He reviewed their work, made a few adjustments, approved the operation. One shot, he said. We get one chance at this. If we miss, Volkov wins, and we're all dead. No pressure, Lena muttered. Sarah brought them coffee and sandwiches, playing the role of worried daughter, but staying out of the planning. Lena caught her watching sometimes, her expression unreadable, and wondered what the girl was thinking, what it was like to watch your father plan to kill dozens of people over breakfast. The day passed in preparation. Weapons checked, vehicles staged, communications tested. Victor made calls to allies, called in final favors, promised things Lena knew he might not live to deliver. By evening, they had 18 people ready to move. Not enough for a prolonged fight, but enough for a fast strike if everything went perfectly. Which it wouldn't. Plans never survived contact with reality. At 10 o'clock, they assembled for final briefing. Victor stood in front of them, still pale, still bandaged, but projecting the kind of authority that made people believe in impossible things. Volkov thinks he's won, Victor said. He thinks killing Marcus and scattering my organization means he can just walk in and take over. But he's wrong. We're not scattered, we're not beaten, we're right here, and tonight we're going to show him that this territory isn't for sale. It was a good speech, the kind that made people willing to die for a cause. Lena watched the faces around her, saw the fear mixed with determination, and felt something close to pride. These weren't soldiers, weren't trained operators. They were criminals and thugs and broken people who'd found purpose in Victor's empire. But right now, they were ready to fight. The nightclub was called Velocity. 3 stories of chrome and neon in the heart of Richmond's entertainment district. Volkov had cleared it out as predicted, the parking lot empty except for his vehicles. Lights blazed from every window, music thumping loud enough to feel in your chest even from a block away. Lena and her team approached from multiple directions. She took the front entrance with 5 people. Scarnose took the back with another 5. The remaining 8, including Victor against everyone's protests, would wait in reserve, ready to respond to wherever the fight developed. At midnight exactly, Lena walked through the front door. The music was deafening, some kind of electronic bass that made her teeth vibrate. The main floor was empty, tables and chairs pushed to the walls. 20 men occupied the space, most of them armed, all of them looking up as Lena entered. At the center, sitting in what looked like a throne made of chrome and black leather, was Dmitry Volkov. He was younger than Lena expected, maybe 45, with silver hair and the kind of expensive suit that probably cost more than a car. He didn't look surprised to see her. In fact, he looked amused. Lena Voss, he said in perfect English. Or should I say, the woman who killed Alexei Petrov. Please, come in. I've been expecting you. That stopped Lena cold. Behind her, she felt her team tense up, ready for the trap to spring. You knew I was coming, she said. Of course. You are not subtle, killing my best man in a warehouse. I knew Victor would send someone for me. I hoped it would be you. Why? Because you are interesting. A ghost from the intelligence community, hiding in a diner, suddenly emerges to save Victor Hale. I wanted to meet the woman who could kill 8 men in the dark. Lena kept her weapon lowered, but ready. Around the room, Volkov's men had their hands near their guns, waiting for the signal. What do you want, Volkov? I want what everyone wants. Territory, money, respect. Victor Hale controlled all 3 in this region. Now he is weak, broken, barely alive. It is time for new leadership. And you think you can just take it? I know I can. The question is whether you will die trying to stop me or whether you will be smart and walk away. You're offering me a deal? I am offering you survival. Victor is finished. His organization is destroyed. Even if he somehow kills me tonight, someone else will come tomorrow. The old guard is dying, Lena. Men like Victor with their codes and their honor, they cannot compete in the modern world. You're wrong. Men like Victor survive because they adapt. No, they survive because people like you protect them. But what happens when you're gone? When the bullets finally find you? Who protects Victor then? It was a good question. Lena didn't have an answer. Volkov stood up, walked closer. His men tensed, but he waved them off. I can use someone with your skills. Join me. I pay better than Victor, offer better protection, and I do not make the mistake of sentimentality. We could accomplish great things together. By great things, you mean human trafficking and weapons smuggling? I mean business. Victor dresses his violence in morality, but it is still violence. At least I am honest about what I am. You're a predator. We are all predators, Lena. Some of us just pretend otherwise. Lena looked at him, at his expensive suit and his confident smile, and she saw what he was offering. A chance to stop fighting, to join the winning side, to survive. And she realized she didn't want it. No, she said. Volkov's smile faded. That is disappointing. I've disappointed better people than you. Then you will die here, along with everyone you brought. Maybe, but you're dying first. Lena moved. She brought up her weapon and fired in one smooth motion, aiming for Volkov's center mass. But he was already moving, faster than she expected, and the round caught him in the shoulder instead of the chest. The nightclub erupted in gunfire. Lena dove behind the bar as bullets chewed apart the space where she'd been standing. Her team spread out, returning fire, using the furniture for cover. The music kept pounding, adding surreal accompaniment to the violence. Volkov had disappeared in the chaos. Lena cursed, tried to track him, but there were too many targets. His men were everywhere, well-trained, coordinated. Outside, she heard more gunfire. Scarnose's team hitting the back entrance, creating a crossfire. One of Victor's men went down next to Lena, hit in the head, dead before he hit the floor. Another took rounds to the chest, his vest stopping them but knocking him unconscious. They were losing. Lena grabbed a fallen rifle, switched to full auto, and started laying down suppressive fire. It bought her team a few seconds to reposition, but that was all. Then the lights went out. Not a power failure. Someone had cut the main breaker. The nightclub plunged into darkness, except for the emergency lighting, red and dim. In the half-light, Lena moved like she had in the diner, using sound and shadow, flowing between positions, taking targets when they revealed themselves. Two of Volkov's men dropped before they knew she was there. A third turned at the last second, but too late. Around her, the fight continued. Scarnose and his team had made it inside, were pushing from the back. Victor's people were holding their positions, trading shots. Lena found stairs leading up to the second floor. She took them two at a time, weapon up, clearing corners. Volkov would head for high ground, try to control the battle from above. Second floor was empty. Third floor showed damage, broken glass, spent casings. Someone had fought here recently. She found Volkov in what looked like an office, pressing a cloth to his shoulder wound, his other hand holding a pistol pointed at the door. Persistent, he said when he saw her. It's a character flaw. Victor's downstairs, bleeding. Your people are dying. For what? An old man's empire. For something that matters. Nothing matters, not in the end. Volkov's hand was shaking, blood loss taking its toll. You could have walked away, could have let this play out without you. I tried that already. Didn't work out. So you choose to die for someone else's war? I choose to fight, that's all. Volkov laughed, a wet sound. Then let us finish this. He brought up his weapon. Lena fired first, 3 rounds center mass. Volkov jerked back, hit the wall, slid down leaving a red streak. Lena approached carefully, kicked his gun away. He was still breathing, barely. You were right, Volkov whispered. Victor adapts, and he found you. That makes him lucky, or just stubborn. Same thing, in this business. His eyes went unfocused. Lena checked his pulse. Gone. She stood there for a moment, looking at the body of Dmitry Volkov, Russian mob boss, predator, businessman. Just another corpse now. Just another name on the list. Downstairs, the shooting had stopped. Lena descended carefully, weapon ready, expecting to find more enemies. Instead, she found Victor's people securing the remaining Russians, zip-tying hands, collecting weapons. Scarnose saw her come down, nodded. Volkov? Dead. Then it's over. Lena wasn't sure about that, but she nodded anyway. Victor was sitting against the bar, holding his side, blood seeping between his fingers. Sarah was next to him, having appeared from somewhere, tears streaming down her face. "I told you to stay at the clinic," Victor said weakly. "I told you to rest," Sarah shot back. "We're both terrible at listening." Lena knelt next to them. "How bad?" "Caught a ricochet. Stupid luck." Victor managed a pained smile. "Is he dead?" "Yes." "Good." Victor's eyes were starting to glaze, shock setting in. "Sarah, you need to call the doctor. Tell her we're coming in hot." Sarah was already on the phone. Sirens approached outside. Multiple units, close and getting closer. Someone had called this in, and the police were responding in force. "We need to move," Lena said. "Now." They carried Victor out the back exit, loaded him into a waiting car. Sarah climbed in next to him, still on the phone with the doctor, giving directions. Lena took one last look at the nightclub, at the bodies being loaded by Victor's people, at the mess they were leaving behind. Then she got in the driver's seat and pulled out, heading for the clinic, leaving the sirens behind. The doctor was waiting when they arrived, her makeshift operating room ready. She took one look at Victor and started barking orders, her assistant rushing to comply. Lena stepped back, let them work. Her hands were shaking again, adrenaline finally crashing. She'd been running on fumes and fury for days now, and it was all catching up at once. Scarnose found her sitting on the clinic steps an hour later, staring at nothing. "Victor's stable," he said. "Doctor says he'll live. Again. He's getting good at that. Practice makes perfect." Scarnose lit a cigarette, offered her one. She declined. "News is calling it gang warfare. Russian mob versus unknown domestic organization. FBI is investigating." Chen kept her word. For now. Volkov's organization is already fracturing. His lieutenants in New York are fighting over who takes charge. None of them want to come south after what happened tonight. What about Victor's territories? Secure. The people who switched to Marcus or Volkov are switching back, now that they see Victor's still standing. It'll take time to rebuild, but we have breathing room. Lena nodded. It was the best outcome they could have hoped for, which somehow made it feel hollow. All those bodies, all that violence. For what? To maintain a criminal empire? To prove a point? "What are you going to do?" Scarnose asked. "I don't know." "You could stay. Victor's going to need good people." "I'm not good people. I'm a killer who got lucky. Aren't we all?" Sarah came out then, wrapped in a blanket despite the warm night. She sat down next to Lena, leaning against her shoulder. "Dad wants to see you," Sarah said quietly. "How is he?" "Tired. Hurt. Alive." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "He said to tell you thank you for everything." "I didn't do it for thanks." "I know, he knows too, but he wanted me to say it anyway." Lena went inside, found Victor in the recovery room, hooked up to machines again. He looked worse than before, if that was possible. Gray skin, sunken eyes, breathing that sounded like broken glass. But he was smiling. "We won," he said. "We survived. That's not the same thing." "Close enough," Victor's smile faded. "Lena, I need to ask you something." "What?" "Stay. Not as an employee, not as muscle, as a partner. Help me rebuild this organization the right way." "There is no right way, Victor. It's all violence and lies." "Maybe. But it's violence with purpose. Protection for people who can't protect themselves. Order in a world that would be chaos otherwise." "You're describing a fantasy. That's not what this is." "Then help me make it that. You have skills, experience, perspective I don't have. Together, we could actually build something worth protecting." Lena looked at him, at this dying man who refused to stop fighting, and she felt something crack inside her. Not breaking exactly, more like thawing. "I'll think about it," she said. "That's all I ask." She left him to rest, went back outside where Sarah was still sitting on the steps. "Are you leaving?" the girl asked. "Eventually. But not now." "Not now." Sarah nodded, accepting that. They sat in silence for a while, watching the sun come up over the clinic, painting everything in gold and red. Lena's phone buzzed. The burner Chen had given her. She checked it, found a final message. 72 hours are up. You're on your own now. Good luck. No signature, no follow-up, just that. Lena deleted the message, turned off the phone, and threw it in a nearby trash can. Who was that? Sarah asked. Nobody important. 2 weeks later, Victor was walking again, slowly, with a cane, but walking. His organization was rebuilding, people coming back, territories being secured. The FBI investigation into the nightclub shooting had stalled. No suspects, no witnesses willing to talk. Lena stayed at the clinic, telling herself it was temporary, that she was just making sure Victor recovered. But she knew that was a lie. She was staying because for the first time in 5 years, she felt like she belonged somewhere. Sarah started back at school, with better security this time. She called every night, telling her father about classes and friends and normal teenage things. Victor listened with patience Lena didn't know he had. You're a good father, Lena said one evening, watching him talk to Sarah on the phone. I'm a terrible father, but I'm trying to be better. That's all anyone can do. A month later, Lena was sitting in the clinic's small office when Victor walked in, moving better now, the cane more affectation than necessity. We have a problem, he said. Of course they did. Problems never stopped in this world. What kind? The kind you're good at solving. Victor handed her a folder. Inside were photos, documents, intelligence reports. There's a trafficking ring operating in Baltimore. Young girls, some as young as 12. Local cops won't touch it because half of them are on the trafficker's payroll. Lena looked at the photos. Scared faces, hollow eyes, kids who should have been in school, not trapped in hell. Why are you showing me this? Because I want to stop it, and because I think you do too. He was right. Lena looked at those faces and felt something ignite in her chest. Not the cold calculation of her training, but actual anger. Righteous fury. When do we move? She asked. Victor smiled. Tomorrow night. I have people scouting locations, building a target package, but I wanted to check with you first. Make sure this is the kind of work you want to be doing. Lena looked at the folder again, at those scared faces, and she realized this was exactly what she wanted to be doing. Not building an empire, not protecting territories, but using her skills for something that actually mattered. I'm in, she said. Good. Because there's more where this came from. A lot more. Over the next 6 months, they hit a dozen operations. Trafficking rings, protection rackets, corrupt cops, sometimes with Victor's people, sometimes alone. Lena moved through the criminal underworld like a scalpel, precise and devastating. She wasn't saving the world, wasn't even saving a city. But she was helping people who couldn't help themselves, and that was enough. Victor's organization evolved. Less emphasis on traditional crime, more focus on intelligence and targeted operations. It wasn't legal, but it wasn't purely predatory either. Something in between. Something new. Sarah graduated from high school, got accepted to college. She wanted to study criminal justice, which made both Victor and Lena laugh until they realized she was serious. I want to understand this world, Sarah explained. The one you both operate in. Maybe find ways to fix it that don't involve killing people. Good luck with that, Lena said. Someone has to try. 1 year after the diner, Lena was standing on a rooftop in Philadelphia, watching a warehouse where a human trafficking ring was operating. Victor was next to her, moving without the cane now, fully recovered. You ever think about going back? Victor asked. To being normal? Every day? Then I remember normal was killing me slowly, and this at least feels like living. Even with all the violence? Especially with the violence. At least here I know what I'm fighting for. Below them, their team moved into position. 8 people, all trained, all loyal, all ready to do what needed to be done. You ready? Victor asked. Lena checked her weapon, confirmed her gear. Always. They moved down from the rooftop into the warehouse, into the chaos and the gunfire and the screaming. Lena moved through it like she always did, efficient and deadly, freeing the captives, eliminating the threats. This was who she was. Not a waitress, not a ghost. A weapon, yes, but one pointed at targets that deserved it. Afterward, when the girls were safe and the traffickers were dead or captured, Lena sat on the warehouse steps and watched the sunrise. Victor sat next to her, both of them exhausted, both of them satisfied. Same time next week? Victor asked. Wouldn't miss it. They had become something neither of them expected. Not quite partners, not quite friends, but something in between. Two broken people who'd found purpose in each other's war. Sarah called as they were driving back, told them about her first week of college, about classes and professors, and the boy she'd met who was studying law enforcement. "A cop?" Victor said, incredulous. "My daughter is dating a future cop?" "You don't get to judge," Sarah shot back. "You're literally a crime lord." "Reformed crime lord. You killed 6 people last month. They were bad people. Still counts." Lena listened to them bicker, feeling something warm in her chest. This was family, she realized. Dysfunctional, violent, built on blood and necessity. But family nonetheless. The sun came up over the highway, turning everything gold. Lena drove toward it, toward whatever came next, no longer running from her past, but building something new on top of it. She'd started as a weapon trying to be invisible. Now she was a weapon with a purpose. It wasn't redemption exactly, wasn't peace, but it was something close to acceptance. And in this world, that was enough. 3 months later, Lena was checking her equipment when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "Hello?" "Lena Voss." The voice was female, professional, vaguely familiar. Or should I say, Elena Volkov? Ice slid down Lena's spine. Nobody had used that name in 7 years. "Who is this?" "Someone from your past. Someone who's been looking for you for a long time. We need to meet." "I don't think so. You'll want to hear this. It's about why you really went into hiding, about the operation that went wrong in Prague, about who betrayed you." Lena's hand tightened on the phone. Prague. 7 years ago. The mission that ended her career, killed her team, forced her to disappear. "I'll call you back," Lena said. 30 minutes. After that, this offer expires. The line went dead. Lena sat there for a long moment, staring at the phone. Her past, which she'd thought was buried, was calling, and it wanted answers. Victor found her 10 minutes later, saw her expression. "What's wrong?" "Someone from before the diner. They know who I am." "What do they want?" "Information. Or revenge. Hard to tell." Lena looked at him. "This might be it. The thing that finally catches up with me. Then we deal with it. Together." Lena almost smiled. "You don't even know what it is." "Doesn't matter. You stood with me when Marcus came, when Volkov came. I stand with you now. That's how this works." It was, Lena realized, exactly how this worked. She'd found something worth protecting, people worth fighting for. And whatever came out of her past, she wouldn't face it alone. She called the number back. Where? The same diner where this all started. Tomorrow. Dawn. Full circle, Lena thought. Back to where it began. "I'll be there," she said. She hung up, looked at Victor. "We have work to do." "Don't we always?" They spent the night preparing, planning, building contingencies. Sarah called, heard the tension in their voices, demanded to know what was happening. Lena told her the truth. Someone from the past was coming back. "Will you be okay?" Sarah asked. "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." The next morning, as dawn broke over the highway, Lena drove back to Martha's diner, the place where her new life had started, where she'd stopped running and started fighting. Victor was in the passenger seat, armed and ready. Scarnose and his team were positioned around the area, covering approaches. Inside the diner, sitting in the same booth where Victor Hale had sat that night, was a woman Lena hadn't seen in 7 years. Colonel Sarah Martinez, her former commanding officer. The woman who'd sent Lena's team into Prague. The woman Lena thought had been killed in the aftermath. Martinez looked up as Lena entered, smiled that same cold smile Lena remembered. "Hello, Elena," Martinez said. "We have a lot to talk about." Lena sat down across from her, Victor sliding in next to her, and realized this story wasn't over. It was just beginning again. But this time she wasn't alone. This time she was ready. And whatever came next, whatever ghosts crawled out of her past, she would face them the same way she'd faced everything since that night in the diner, with violence, with purpose, and with people who had her back. The waitress brought coffee. Lena smiled, accepted it, and prepared for whatever came next. Because that's what survivors did. They kept fighting, always.